Clicking live with the squeaky flow. TikTok, time to rock. Good
Let's
evening.
go live already. I'm
We're
sick
already
of
live.
waiting for this.
TikTok, time to rock. AP, of course, signed on like 10 seconds ago.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, people still talking about the grapes.
What grapes?
I think it was Black Angel sent me a clip of, there was a Saturday Night Live skit of one guy feeding another guy grapes, and it really had Ali Dawah and Smiles to Jenna vibes. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Those guys like being graped.
The grapers. Live grape on stream.
Hey, what is this? Someone said Haqiqatjou has come out as a blatant anti-Semitism lately. Who's that? Is that Haqiqatjou or is that Manny Pacquiao?
I think there's the Chinese philosopher Haqiqatjou.
What's wrong with you?
Yes, he does do that. He has been very openly anti-Semitic very much lately. He is becoming unhinged, and of course, the environment is perfect for that.
Who? Daniel Haqiqatjou?
Yes,
that's weird.
The environment is perfect for that right now. Hey,
so we've got. I don't remember when it was. It was not too long ago, but we talked about. Richard Dawkins saying that he's a cultural Christian, and then everyone thought that was some new thing, even though he's been saying that for about 1 million years. And but we went through his comments, very interesting. He said things like, you got Christian missionaries in Africa and Muslim missionaries in Africa, and I hope the Christians win. I hope they win that one because it will be better for everyone. So he was saying things like that. We're gonna recap with the short clip, and then we're gonna go through Mohammed Hijab's response. You know that Mohammed Hijab offered a powerful response?
Oh, he did? Oh yeah, it started with Richard Dawkins is trying to stay relevant in the last moments of his life.
Mm-hmm. But he's acting like that the entire time, and yes, maybe he only has days left. Who knows? He was saying something along those lines.
and this is just. But what does he expect? I mean, this kind of stuff will appeal to his stupid audience, but it will not appeal to anybody else. Everybody else will just perceive this as a very scumbag-ish move. Yeah,
it's I mean, think about this. If Richard Dawkins is really just, I'm about to die, how can I stay? Like, why would you care about staying relevant by blasting away at Islam or something like that? Like, what would you care? What would you care? Why would he really care, Hijab? The point here is Richard Dawkins wasn't trying to stay relevant. He was in a little interview, and they asked him what he thought about the Ramadan lights and stuff like this, and he said what so many other old British people are thinking.
So many other British people are thinking.
So we're gonna go through the short video recap. Again, this was a longer video. We went through the long version whenever it was last week or whatever when we went through that clip. We're gonna go through the short version just for anyone who was not here last time and who doesn't know what we're talking about. And then we're gonna go through Mohammed Hijab's response. And depending on what kind of time we have, we'll look at some stuff. We'll look at we'll take a peek at Inspiring Philosophy's new video. Watch some of that.
I don't know what you think time is. There are not different times. There are not different types of time or different kinds of time. There's only one time.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
Because time isn't relative, right? Come on.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified.
Okay, Einstein's nemesis, AP.
Yes.
All right, here we go. Here's this lady.
Well, I must say I was slightly horrified to hear that Ramadan is being promoted instead. I do think that we are culturally a Christian country. I call myself a cultural Christian. I'm not a believer, but there's a distinction between being a believing Christian and being a cultural Christian. And so, I love hymns and Christmas carols, and I sort of feel at home in the Christian ethos. I feel that we are.
Feels at home in the Christian ethos. I do like how his examples of like a Christian nation are always like cathedrals and hymns. That's it. That's it. If we could just get that on atheism and still have cathedrals and have some songs, then
I feel so betrayed by Richard Dawkins. He was my superhero. I thought I thought he was going to lead the whole world into atheism, but then he said these words, and they hit me so badly in my heart right here.
This was the ultimate betrayal of all that the new atheists have stood for. I'm a cultural Christian, and I like cathedrals, by golly. I like those buildings. They're very nice. In fact, I remember when all of them were built.
A Christian country in that sense. It's true that statistically the number of people who actually believe in Christianity is going down, and I'm happy with that. But I would not be happy if, for example, we lost all our cathedrals and our beautiful parish churches.
Well, there is a dilemma right there.
Yeah, you think? It's hilarious, right? It's like, I just read an article by someone. I'll probably make a short video about it because it's a good little article. But he said, it's like Dawkins is saying he likes the fruits, but not the root. You know what I mean? He likes the fruit of the fruit tree, but not the roots. It's like, oh, I really like them apples. Look at these lovely apples. Let me burn this tree to the ground to make the apples come a little bit closer to me. And oh no, now everything's dying and I don't have the apples anymore. It's along those lines.
Yeah. When fruit and root rhymes, he should be liking that. That's the point. I think.
Fruit and the root.
Yeah.
I like the fruit, but not. I like the fruit, but I attack the root. And I'm confused as to why nothing is working out the way I thought it was.
What a mystery.
So I count myself a cultural Christian. I think it would matter if we substituted any alternative religion. That would be truly dreadful.
Well, which brings me to my supplementary point, which is that, as we know, church attendance is plummeting, but the erection of mosques across Europe, I think six...
Shut up, AP. Shut up. Don't say it. Don't say it. Don't bring your childish...
I didn't say anything. What is your problem?
I can see. I saw you perk up real quick. Like, oh. She said erection.
But I didn't say it. She said it. So...
Oh, boy. Yeah, I understand what people are saying. Be careful when you go live with an atheist because this inevitably happens. But, yeah, I don't know what you...
And are under construction, and there are many more, are being planned. So do you regard that as a problem? Do you think that matters?
Yes, I do, really. I mean, I might choose my words carefully. I mean,
This is him choosing his words carefully. It's interesting. He said, this is him choosing his words carefully. Watch what he says. If I had to choose between Christianity and Islam, I choose Christianity every single time. I mean, it seems to me to be a fundamentally decent religion, in a way that I think Islam is not. Yeah, I like him too.
I think you're going to have to explain why you say that.
I'm really trying to understand whatever mental block some of these guys have in terms of they had it in their minds. Just start blasting away at religion, and then everyone's going to become more rational. And let's just keep blasting away at religion. Oh no, we're being taken over by Islam. What the heck is going on here? What's going on? We don't know, but let's just keep doing the same thing. Blasting away, and just we don't like religion. We need more atheism. We'll just keep doing that, and there's even more Islam. What's going on here?
No, you're misunderstanding it though. It's like, especially with him. The issue is not that he thinks that the whole thing might have been a mistake. The whole move toward atheism might have been a mistake. And he has always been very cautious about the rise of Islam in the face of the decline of Christianity, and he pointed that out over the decades in different ways. He would still think and still say it is best if we move forward toward a post-Christian environment and post-Christian way of thinking. However, at the same time, we should be fighting against normalizing or adopting this Islamic mindset and turning that into the norm. And he has been doing that. He has been consistently fighting against it, despite all the backlash from the left and from the atheists and all that. And it is just a shame and quite saddening for him as well to see that it didn't work. That
That's what I mean, right? It's not working, right? And you just pointed out he's been saying for years. So I saw it in an article in 2010. But it's a 2010 article. That's where he gave his famous quote about him having mixed feelings about the decline of Christianity because Christianity might be a bulwark against something. He didn't say right there what it was about. It turns out it was about Islam because he made the same comment in this interview that whatever it is, people having a bunch of people taking Christianity seriously was good for atheists because that actually served to block Islam. Christians who take Christianity seriously it keeps Islam from taking over places. And then once that Christian community starts diminishing or not taking it seriously, they don't stand in it in the same way. And so that's what I can't figure out. Like if it was, hey, we'll just blast in all directions at religion, and then as atheism rises, then things will become more rational and society will become better. And then now saying, oh, actually, I can't even. My goodness, London, entire cities are no longer the same anymore. They're all Islamic now, and I mean, a light switch should go on to stop. Like, okay, whatever we've been doing, we need to figure out a new plan because what we have been doing is leading to disastrous results for us. We're not even talking about for anyone else. Like for me as an atheist, what we have been doing incomprehensibly is leading to bad things for us. So maybe we stop, regroup, rethink things, reformulate a new plan, and then decide what to do. Nope, it's just, well, let's keep just blasting away. It's going to work. And I'm bringing it up. I'm bringing it up because I'm legitimately interested in what you do. If you're the new atheist, so if you're the Dawkins, Sam Harris type atheist, and you thought what you were doing was going to lead to this, and what actually happened is it's leading to something completely different and way worse for you. What do you do? Do you just keep doing the same thing and hoping that if you keep it up longer, then it'll work out? Or do you step back and come up with a different plan? But I don't know what a different plan is because he's saying things like, hey, I like some of the results of Christianity, even though I don't believe it. And even in this interview, he couldn't help but attack it, right? He's like, oh, you don't really believe Jesus was born of a virgin. You don't really believe that stuff, do you? Like he couldn't help it. And so it's like, he wants this world where it has certain features that he likes of Christian culture and not other features. But I have zero clue how in his mind he can get that result. How do you keep the things you like while destroying what gave rise to it? And you don't seem to have any ability whatsoever to keep something else from coming in and taking over, which you acknowledge you really, really don't like. How is this working in your mind that you think you have a coherent plan here? I don't think they have any sort of coherent plan. I don't think they have anything in their minds that could actually get them what they want. Nothing. There's nothing that's going to get them what they want. And I don't know how their thinking could possibly be working right now.
Yeah, that is the problem. It's like they have been consistently saying that we have to change this one thing, which is the dominance of Christianity or of religious thinking. However, nobody actually had a proper plan on how to do this without messing things up entirely. In a different way, such as in such a way that Islam would come and replace Christianity, and people like him, he has been aware of this stuff for a long time, and yet the best he could do was to speak out against the normalization of Islam, but he couldn't present a way to prevent it from actually taking over. So you can come to the conclusion, right, that from the atheistic or the new atheist perspective, you don't have to conclude, getting rid of religion or criticizing religion was wrong. You can also come to the conclusion, yes, we were right in doing that. However, while we were doing something that is right, we have completely overlooked a massive problem here that is now going to become an even bigger problem for us. And when I say even bigger problem, people should take this seriously. secularism, atheism is only so free and progressive and whatever humanistic in the West, and it works in the West because it grew upon the foundations of Christian culture. It would have not been the same in Islamic culture. It is not the same in Islamic culture. Atheists very much have Christian or post-Christian morality by which they judge things, by which they want to make things right, by which they want to bring justice or social justice, whatever it is. Ironically, even when they fight against what they perceive as Christian bigotry, they are adopting Christian values without knowing it. Against this supposed Christian bigotry. So Christianity is what made society good in the West. Islam doesn't do that. Islam is just altogether terrible. And people should be aware, and unfortunately haven't been aware so far, people should be aware that Islam is significantly worse if it dominates your culture than Christianity ever has been.
And yeah, so it's like, wait, another 5 years? Are they, I think Dawkins seems pretty healthy to me. I think he'll be around another 5 years. But it's like, are you going to be sitting here 5 years from now, Richard Dawkins?
Yes.
Even more, being crushed even more by Islam and still going, okay, well, I think Christianity may have been a bulwark. Maybe we didn't know what we were doing. But by golly, you don't believe in that resurrection, do you? That's silly. Come on, Jesus walking on water. Right, and just having no clue.
I cannot believe what we have done to our culture. Christianity was much better than this.
Yeah. So anyway, the overarching issue that I see here is, from an atheistic perspective, it doesn't make a lot of sense to really care what people believe about an afterlife or something like that.
Yeah.
If it's not harming you in some way or harming society. So the sort of rallying cry of the new atheism was religion in general is harmful to the world and harmful to society and so on. And so apart from that, I mean, if someone's dying and say, hey, I'm going to be with Jesus, or I'm going to go, get my virgins or something like this, like what would you care? What? No, you're just going to die and that's it. And then there's nothing. Like, why would you want people to agree with you on that if they're perfectly happy and so on? And so the reason is, well, if it's actually bad for society and it's hurting the world and it's hurting progress and so on, then it makes sense to be against it. But what happens when you decide all this religious stuff is bad for the world and we really need more people to become atheists so we can become more rational, and then you find, Christianity was actually helping way more than I realized here. Well, notice it makes no sense for you to really care terribly about what people believe unless it's hurting you, but then you find it's helping you. So what do you do at that point? That's what I know. There seems to be confusion and I don't understand it. So in other words, if I were an atheist and I saw, well, this is what these people believe is actually helping the world, like whatever that is, like if you thought Israel was a force for good in the world, even if you're an atheist, and let's suppose everyone in Israel took Judaism seriously, but you thought it was actually good for the population there, why would you attack it then? And that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's like they've been wired into attacking, and they just can't stop. Anyway, I don't know. I find this fascinating. I find this fascinating stuff.
This is something that I have been saying as well to people. I have been posting about it, tweeting about it. I talked about it in older videos and so on. Some people still bring it up and say, why is AP not criticizing Christianity? Is it because he believes in Christianity? Is it because he wants to do this and this? No, it's because, I am aware. I don't have the belief. And I am aware of all your criticisms and all your problems with it. However, don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. There is a massive problem that we are dealing with. That is Islam. Especially ex-Muslims should be aware of how big of a problem Islam is. Do I really want to be dumb enough to engage, to align with people and engage in bashing Christianity under the premise of oh, let's just be fair, all religions, if we don't do this, then people will say that we are undercover Christians, or that we are bigots and so on. I don't care at all. Why would I do that? You are basically harming your own society, you are harming your own future, because fighting against Christianity while Islam is on the rise, while Islam is on the onslaught, is an incredibly stupid idea. It is dangerous, it is harmful, it shouldn't be done. It is also a waste of time. You should focus your energy on Islam instead, if you really have a problem with dangerous religion.
Yeah, so what we could say, we can modify what I said a little bit ago. And guys, I say this again from experience. It's not me sitting back as a Christian going, oh, what should atheism be like, or something like that. Before the rise of the new atheist, you did have more aggressive atheists, like the group American Atheists. Madeleine Murray O'Hair said she wanted to be able to drive around and not see crosses or anything else like that in society. For the most part, atheists did not care a lot about what people believe, and most atheists thought, oh, okay, if religion helps you, then fine. What do I care? It's not affecting me. If that helps you somehow, if it adds some structure to you, fine. Don't care. Very little aggressiveness in terms of promoting it. If you ask an atheist, hey, why don't you believe in God? Then you could get into a conversation and so on. But they just weren't aggressive. And then the new atheist came along and started blasting away. But what we could say to modify it is, it doesn't make a lot of sense to be attacking someone's beliefs unless you're convinced that they're bad for society, which is what the new atheists concluded. Religion in general is bad for society. But how you should modify that is, whatever's clearly worst for society, if you want to go after something, go what is clearly really, really, really bad for society. Because now it's like they're saying, Christianity's pretty decent as far as religions go, and there are other religions that are pretty decent, and Hinduism, we don't believe in that, well, that's pretty decent, but this Islam thing is really not decent at all. Okay, well, why wouldn't you just be focusing all your energies blasting that away? If the only reason to criticize this stuff is if it's bad for society, it makes sense to go after whatever is worst for society.
Yes. Alhamdulillah, exactly.
And yet he could not finish the interview without blasting Christianity. That's what I find interesting. Anyway, we'll finish this short clip again, guys. There's a longer interview that you can check out. We've gone through previously, but I'll just get the overview.
Mr. Dawkins, why is Islam fundamentally not decent like Christianity?
Yes, I mean the way women are treated. I mean, Christianity is not great about that. It's had its problems with female vicars and female bishops and things.
No female bishops in those cathedrals I like so much.
But there's an active hostility to women, which is promoted, I think, by the holy books of Islam. I'm not talking about individual Muslims, who of course are quite different, but the doctrine.
Honestly, I don't know why he says "I think." I mean, it's totally accurate.
Yeah, most of the inhabitants of hell are women who are there for being ungrateful to their husbands, and that's why you have to beat them in the here and now to make them behave. That is an active hostility towards women, ladies and gentlemen.
Of Islam, the Hadith and the Quran, it's fundamentally hostile to women, hostile to gays. And I find that I like to live in a culturally Christian country, although I do not believe a single word of the Christian faith.
Based. He's a cultural Christian just like me. See?
You should post a clip and say, wow, he's a cultural Christian just like me. That has a funny ring to it. Or make a T-shirt with a picture of Richard Dawkins on it and put "cultural Christian just like me." People would wear those, man. People would rock those.
Oh, man.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to watch Mohammed Hijab's response. We're going to look at Mohammed Hijab's response to that because I think the Dawah guys are panicking even more behind the scenes than they're letting on, and they're jumping over every new thing that pops up. But it's like they're pulling this game of whack-a-mole, and it's not working out for them. They're trying to people keep talking trash about Islam on the internet, on TV. Can't take it.
I don't know why you would say that. My prediction is that Mohammed Hijab probably humiliated and destroyed Richard Dawkins.
Humiliate him. I predict there will be some chest thumping. Someone tell Hijab he is paying taxes for a new F-35. He is.
That is a good point. I mean, I want generally Haqiqatjou to acknowledge that. I mean, he blasts people for supporting or not boycotting companies that support Israel. He's paying taxes here in America, and probably good taxes, like high amounts as well, and thereby directly funding operations that he's totally against.
And guys, you don't. Lots of people don't understand how serious this is from the Muslim sources. That as far as the justification for groups that attack Western targets and understand that they could be hitting Muslims as collateral damage, their reasoning is, well, it doesn't matter if they're living in the West and paying taxes to these governments, then they're actually funding the mischief that these nations are making in Muslim countries. In other words, so Muhammad said that the fighter, the one who actually goes out and fights, he gets the same reward as the person who funds the fighter. The person who funds the fighter is equally responsible as the person who actually goes out and does the fighting. So what's that mean? It means if you believe that Western nations are making mischief in Muslim lands, that's a death sentence. But who is actually responsible for the fighter who's fighting? Well, the people who are funding that. Well, who's that? That's the taxpayer, your people's tax dollars. So if you're a Muslim living in the UK or the United States or something, you're funding. You're equally according to Muhammad, you are equally responsible as the guy who goes out and is shooting people. And they're doing this, and that's part of the reasoning behind people who say no. You have to live in a completely different country. You have to live. You can't live in the West and be paying taxes to these governments, or you're hellbound as well. And so anyway, but they do it because it's just too darn good living in these Christian countries. That's what's funny, right? You got Richard Dawkins. I'd prefer living in a Christian country than a Muslim country. And then Hijab, hey, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Even though, me too, and Ali Dawah, and all our wives, of course we prefer it.
How dare you say it? How dare you? We also feel the same way.
Let's see. Muslims make the UK better. I get a comedy show every week in Speaker's Corner.
that is a good point.
Free comedy show. Jesse says, here's $5 to help get Rebecca a better microphone. Yes. Tell Rebecca to pick out a microphone. We'll cover it for her.
We'll do that.
Slippery Zabiba. Slippery Zabiba. Abus, you will pay for the 3 ignored. I guess it's super chats. I thought that was German for a second. I thought that was like Sprach. Super chats. You will pay. Oh, you will pay for the 3 ignored super chats yesterday. Yes, you will. Shame on you.
No, I won't.
Jack said, please give shout out for Middle East witness Roja. Been on with Rebecca, fellow Christian who needs support. Love you guys. So that is Middle East witness Roja, who's been on with Rebecca.
Huh. Interesting. I need to check it out.
2 a.m. Monday morning, but you guys are worth it. Yes, we are. We're that good. Mo was pushing the Sydney terrorist. Was Jewish on X. I still don't know anything about that. I just know there was a terrorist attack. I don't know who was behind it.
So there was an attack. It was the police are actually not calling it a terrorist attack anymore because it was apparently I don't know what I forgot what the guy's name was. Some Gauchi something, but he is apparently a mentally ill guy who has been known to the police for quite a while, who has been living on his own and has been like engaged in very strange, very odd behavior, and one day just went out there with a knife and started primarily attacking women. Which they
it was a knife attack.
Yeah. And the thing is, so at first, as soon as it happened, of course, everyone started speculating about who the guy is and what his motives are, and people started saying it's an Islamic terrorist. However, certain people on Twitter started spreading the conspiracy theory that that the guy is an Israeli Jew named Benjamin Cohen.
Why'd they always go with that name?
It's so easy, of course, like the easiest name to come up with, Benjamin Cohen. And they started spreading it, and Syrian Girl and some other guy, some Aussie something, were on the forefront of spreading that conspiracy theory. Jackson Hinkle, Jake Shields, Mohammed Hijab, Haqiqatjou, they all engaged in sharing this. And then the police came out the next day and actually announced who it was. And the funny thing is, they also found somebody on LinkedIn named Benjamin Cohen who kind of looks similar. And they said, this is the guy. And the guy is still alive. And people started harassing him and sending him messages and death threats and things like that. When the guy who stabbed those people at the mall is already dead. He was killed on the spot by a police officer. Anyway, so it's been a giant mess, but the authorities are not treating it as a terrorist attack at the moment anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, guys. So the one of the key features of an actual terrorist attack would be some sort of political or religious agenda. You're doing it to spread a message. If you just go out and kill a bunch of people, it's just mass murder. If your goal is to just kill people, but you're not trying to convey any message, that's why they wouldn't call that terror. They would call that just mass murder or something like that. And if you're insane, then they're going to put that in a different category too.
Alhamdulillah.
And just when the world was holding its breath to see whether Dawkins would be the hidden 12th scientist come to abolish ignorance and unite the world under reason. the 12th hidden scientist. Funny. Let's see.
Yeah.
Jesus can't be the son of God because he didn't want to slaughter the Jews. Hey, someone blasting Paul here, Paul the liar. Who's the suffering servant in Isaiah 53? Jesus? Yes, correct. That is correct. Nothing else fits. Rax says, yesterday I went to Aisha's bar. Hey, we went to Aisha's bar.
Yeah,
we got a good picture of that, yeah. Yesterday I went to Aisha's bar on my flying carpet to buy me some camel urine lemonade and almost cut my aorta piece upon me. That does suck. It is. We got to be careful.
That is terrible, man.
Let's see.
That is terrible.
You guys should start referencing Muhammad as Dia's jizya collector. He collected that jizya all over his clothes. Yeah, guys, just so everyone knows, in response to all the Dawah guys who can't stop lying, as a Christian, I'm not going to encourage people to lie in response. I'm going to start encouraging people to not give them the benefit of the doubt on any of this stuff. In other words, if you read hadiths about Muhammad being covered in semen, no benefit of the doubt as far as this being his from nocturnal emissions. Nope. We will assume it was Dia's, if it was human at all. If it was human semen.
It was probably goat, most likely.
Also, Dachshund, I like Dachskins. Dawskins. I do everything in my power to warn people against faith itself, not just against so-and-so extremist faith. Yeah, that's true. But that's kind of what I mean. It's like you guys have no empirical evidence that things are going to go the way you want anymore, right? You had a theory. You put your theory to the test. What happens when you had a theory about how things are going to go and it doesn't go that way at all? Then that should be disconfirmation of your theory. And yet, if you just keep going, then it seems you're operating by faith in spite of the evidence against you, which that was kind of their thing, that they're the ones who don't do that.
That's based. I can just say that I'm proud that I don't know if I would say proud, but I personally never really engaged in that whole attitude. So. See, I was right. You see? Hallelujah. 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 You're humiliated now.
Let's see a couple more of these, and then we'll go to Hijab's awesome, powerful Dawah video. David, this is out of topic, but where is Saitama in the background? I missed this guy. Well, I don't think Saitama was ever on this shelf. That was the other. Oh, if you mean in my regular videos, yeah, I can put him back. I missed a guy. Also, S3 is coming. Oh, season 3 is coming out soon with very high promises with animation quality. Expect biblical references for the final boss in One Punch Man. Cool. Yeah, that'd be good because yes, season 2 was definitely a step down from season 1. Season 1 was one of the best seasons of any show ever.
Yeah, I didn't like season 2 either. I haven't watched a single one of them. I have no idea what that is.
That's why you're a loser. You would love the show. You would love the show.
Maybe.
You normally we have some slight differences in musical taste, but as far as TV shows, we tend to like the same thing. And One Punch Man was awesome. So and I'm a guy, I don't like the animes or anything like that. I've never got into them, but that show is just awesome. Why no more weekly jihad reports with Robert? Oh, we're still doing it. It's just Robert travels a lot because he speaks, especially when he's got new books out and stuff like that. He does lots of traveling, lots of speaking, and so yeah, he's been traveling every week for the past couple of weeks. So once he's back at home on a Wednesday, we'll be covering stuff. Is Pamela Geller still active? Unheard from in ages. Yeah, as far as I know.
I haven't heard of her in quite a while.
I've been working a lot lately. Thank you for the information, education, entertainment, both of you, and IP. Yeah, IP's all right. Marilyn Murphy. So he wants the Christian fallout without dropping the Christ bomb. Very rational. Not. He's beginning to sound like a false prophet. I'm going to actually bring something up before we get to the end of this. I'll probably make a separate video on it because I think it's an important point. But there's a parable I think does a good job at summing things up here. Oh, here's one for you. Did you guys see the clip of Bassem Youssef on PBD podcast implying that the only reasons that Muslim countries are crap holes is because America's intervention? Were you familiar with that? I didn't know he was on there.
I saw that he was on there. I didn't see that aspect. I would have to look into that. That would be an interesting thing to react to. Because
is that why you tweeted about him earlier? You said he's like the best. He's like the kind of the best one or something like that. And even he.
Yeah, I tweeted that he is the best that the pro-Palestine people have to offer, and he's insufferably bad. I tweeted that because
when he was holding up the charts and going, "Oh, this is a good month. This is a good ratio for Ben Shapiro." Oh, I don't know. You could be saying something you could be saying something I completely disagree with, as long as you're funny. As long as you're funny and not boring. Just don't bore me.
That's the thing. I usually appreciate that kind of humor and dark humor, but with that guy, I don't know. It just annoys me so much. I can't listen to that for more than a second. But he was on trigonometry.
We might want to cover this. Yeah.
Argue with him.
That's what you posted.
Terrible. Yeah. That's why I made that reference earlier.
So he was on PBD too. We might need to. I don't know. We might need to check some of that out and go through it. Yeah, it's entertaining. We could pull up some clips from both those shows and see. AP, you need to apologize for using your brain and recognizing the real threat Islam poses. I'm offended. Be a good human and turn your brain off.
I'm sorry.
Here from Ryan Gosling. AP Gosling. AP will destroy Dawkins in a debate, inshallah. Inshallah.
I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to do that.
Goat Hub. No. Why everyone chooses the goat? Oh, that's a reference to the title. I says why everyone chooses Christian nations. No, everyone chooses the goat and the cow.
I would choose the goat.
Beatrice says, atheist, I want a society. Oh, this is from atheist. Atheist, I want a society that treats human as the image of God without God. That's pretty decent summary. And so, yeah, it's like, guys, keep in mind, you could have a society that just has whatever features you like without the belief. It's theoretically possible. That's why it works in their heads. Just practically speaking, it just doesn't work like that. And they're kind of finding that out. So the question is like, what kind of plan do you come up with next? Because you need to figure this stuff out. I mean, like you're massively affecting entire civilizations. You should be pretty careful and have some clue of what you're doing, is what I'm saying. If you're just, hey, this makes sense in our heads, let's go do it. And you like destroy Western civilization. Well, you don't want to be responsible for that, do you? You don't want to be, anyway, I don't know.
I would want to be responsible for it.
That'd be cool. It'd be based.
I want destruction.
By the Quran's logic, words of a rabbi in the Talmud equal words of Allah. Counts as deifying. Also means Muslims whining on the Talmud are apostates.
It also means, Muslims worship the rabbis.
Mm-hmm, they do. That's true. Muslim X is plus Islamophobic, more Islamophobic than this stream after yesterday's fiasco. Everyone accusing each other of apostasy, terrorism, and Mossad. Even Mojab is now MI6.
Oh, it's so funny. People are fighting. Muslims are fighting because of the Iran attack, because it was such a disastrously bad attack, or an attempted attack. It had like a less than 1% success rate at hitting its targets. Iran supposedly unleash its wrath to punish Israel, and 99% of the missiles and drones were intercepted or stopped or never reached their target. The one thing that caused harm to a person injured a 7-year-old Arab Bedouin girl in Israel, and I think the only projectile, the only missile that actually landed at a military base only caused minor damage, minor structural damage. That's it. And now people are like, what is this? What is happening? Why is Iran just playing with us? Is Iran just like in on the whole issue? And now they're fighting with each other. It's so funny.
Yeah, and it's gotta psychologically, it has to be traumatizing, right? Like after the attack on the 7th back in the day. It was, you see, we managed to do it. Look, we're actually able to get through their defenses. The end is here. The end is near. Israel's going to be wiped out. And then a couple weeks later, they're destroying us. If we just whine enough on college campuses, we can change all of this. And then months go by, and okay, they've kind of gone through the entire Gaza Strip, and now they're almost at the end. When's all this whining gonna work out? Oh yes, Iran is attacking. Finally, the cavalry is here. The cavalry has come. They're gonna stop them. They're gonna stop Israel now because Israel's gonna be attacked on all sides. Aha! Wait, it didn't do anything.
Woohoo!
They didn't do anything? Nothing? Oh, come on, Allah. Seriously, Allah? Come on. Why? That's what it's like.
What a stupid move.
Interesting. Theo says, from France, it's crazy how these Muslims come to France. We give help to everyone because those come from Christian beliefs. They are leeches. Love you too. God bless. Yeah, that is... This isn't just one particular group or another particular group. If you have one group who is trying to help other people, you run the risk of other people taking advantage of it. That's true with anything else, right? Like if you want to give to charity, you want to be able to help poor people. Okay, but as soon as you're handing out money to poor people, there are going to be other people who try to get a piece of that, who might not be poor. You know what I mean? So anyway, there are people who take advantage of other people's good intentions. And that's why your good intentions should be connected to things like wisdom and intelligence and not being stupid.
I don't know. Dear Muller, that sounds a little bit Islamophobic to me and a little bit bigoted to me. I just want to ask you a question. Like you for example, assume that you have given Muslims or that you have given these people enough and that they are not grateful. I'm sorry, did you give them your house? Did you give them your family members?
Maybe you haven't given them enough. Give them more, and then maybe their hearts will melt.
Did you give them your belongings, or did you give them really enough?
Did you give them your daughters? Well, they actually did in Great Britain. Sadly, they did for decades, thousands of them.
Yeah,
but maybe you didn't give them enough.
Oh, well, how dare you not give them enough?
I have never seen anyone looking forward to moving to an Islamic country. Yeah, me neither. Western nations are turning to crap because Islam is coming to our countries. I can't go number 2. I'm all out of Qurans. Very intolerant. Very intolerant. Just joking, AP. Love you, brother. Almost at 500K.
Oh, yes, almost.
You better do something. Hey, you know what you should do? Actually make a normal classic AP video to celebrate.
No, not doing.
Would you guys ever do a video on hijab's very clear and serve NPD issue? What is that? What's NPD issue? I would love to hear your thoughts.
Narcissistic personality
disorder. Personality disorder? Oh, yeah. Oh, severe. I think you meant severe instead of serve. Very clear and severe narcissistic personality disorder issue. I would love to hear your thoughts. God bless you guys. Yeah, that guy's clearly. You could just go through the criteria according to the DSM-5 and show clips of hijab exhibiting all these things over and over again.
That's true. You You could do that. We did talk about that quite a bit in past live streams. I don't know. I would kind of like to just leave it at that and leave it to somebody else to do that. You know what's funny? I actually had a conversation with him where I told him that he's very narcissistic, or that he has a narcissistic personality disorder. And he actually
jealous
said,
because I'm so great.
he actually said, "Yeah, I do."
Yeah, it's obvious. I mean, it's not like it's in dispute, right?
Yeah.
And the Iron Dome save the Al Aqsa Dome. No? Yes.
Yes.
That has. And it's interesting. All right, so we got some more super chats, but let's go ahead and jump into this Mohammed Hijab clip, because just like everything Hijab does, is going to be very, very powerful stuff.
Yes.
Very
Definitely.
powerful stuff. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the mighty Mohammed Hijab.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys?
Look how he's looking at him. Look at his face. Oh, no, my Mohammed Hijab looking. I lean back so I can look down upon you all just a little bit.
You little weakling.
You're all little weaklings.
Doing. Recently, science journalist and retired zoologist Richard Dawkins
Why didn't you introduce him as a Oxford professor, huh? You'd be flipping out if you were an Oxford professor and they didn't introduce you as such, Hijab.
has made an attempt to become relevant again in the last moments of his life by speaking about Islam. Let's take a look at the video and come back and respond, guys.
I actually like it that he knows what a joke he's being right now. I actually like it. Here's the thing: hijab sometimes is legitimately funny. You got to give credit where credit is due. But
it is true. It's true.
Yeah.
I actually, when I was watching the episode between him and Rabbi Shmuley, I actually found it quite entertaining because he was funny. It was not the best time to be funny because he probably didn't make the best impression to people that he needs to make an impression for. But,
the impression that he wanted to make that he was successful was only for his own people. And what you're saying is he should have been focused on winning some people from the opposition side over to his view. Yeah. And you don't do that. Hey, what about the lubricants? The lubricants.
Exactly.
It is actually funny though that he's smiling.
The way women are treated. I mean, Christianity is not great about that. It's had its problems with female vicars and female bishops and things, but there's an active hostility to women, which is promoted, I think, by the holy books of Islam. I'm not talking about individual Muslims, who of course are quite different, but the doctrines of Islam, the Hadith and the Quran, is fundamentally hostile to women, hostile to gays.
And to his credit, I mean, he did something lots of people usually do, but he was also careful to do it. He drew the distinction between. I'm talking about what Islam teaches. I'm not saying every Muslim this or that. A Muslim can be the nicest person in the world to his wife. Not saying anything about some individual Muslim. Just talking about the ideology. It seems really hostile towards women and gays. Yeah, that would be entirely correct. I do not know why hijab, who, of course, we can have secret second wives and not tell our first wives about our second, third, and fourth wives because we're marrying all these 5- and 6-year-old daughters of the other Dawah guys. We're passing our daughters around, and our wives might object to that. And it's just like complete. There's
dare our first wives even ask about it?
Even when they're saying things, we've talked about this in the past. Even when they're saying things like, "Hey," as soon as they're. And it's just crazy because, again, this is better than what the sources actually say. The source, you do not have to wait for puberty or anything else, according to the Quran or the Hadith. You don't have to wait for any of that. What you are waiting for, even according to your scholars, is for a situation where you're not going to permanently damage the girl because she's too tiny and fragile that you're going to squish her or something like that, or that you're going to rip her open and stuff. Those are the only things you're looking for. So that's what you find from the actual sources. But I mean, think about it. What we hear from the Dawah guys is as soon as there's any signs, doesn't matter if she's 4 years old, 5 years old, as soon as there's any signs of maturity, then we can start banging her. And you want to jump on them as soon as you can, as soon as they reach any any sign of maturity, any sign of a menstrual cycle, anything like that, you want to jump on it. And I went through this at some point in a different video where you can look at manuals for pig breeders. They say, do not start breeding your pig just because the pig gets the first menstrual cycle. Let the pig continue growing. It's going to be safer and healthier for her and for the offspring. It's all safer if they don't get pregnant as soon as they're able to get pregnant. Let them continue developing. And so what that means is pig farmers treat pigs better than the Dawah guys advocate treating their wives.
Beast.
And like, how would you think that there's anything controversial about what Dawkins is saying? Hey, I don't like how women are treated by this ideology.
And I find that I like to live in a culturally Christian country, although I do not believe a single word of the Christian faith.
Let's really assess what this man is saying.
I mean, this point here is Mohammed Hijab should literally agree with this entirely. Because Mohammed Hijab also, as you pointed out, prefers to live in a culturally Christian country without believing in it. Mm-hmm. So they're basically the same.
And it is. Here's the amazing part, because everything we said about it not making sense for atheists, it doesn't make sense for atheists to really be blasting away at something unless there's a really good reason. It's actually harmful to them. And so what happens if you find out, oh, actually, this is actually good for me? But you could say the same thing about hijab. Listen to these guys. They clearly and indisputably, all like Richard Dawkins, want to live in countries that have been massively influenced by Christianity. The things that the Muslims complain about are usually, as far as like society is concerned, are usually people not following Christianity. And yet, in the exact same way that Dawkins do it, they can't stop blasting away at Christianity. Right? The Muslims every day, we can't stand the way things are going in society. Oh, look at all this! Look at all this immorality. Let's keep blasting away at Christianity.
The West needs Islam because Christianity is not good enough. That's why I came here to the West.
You gotta love these guys. I do like it's cool that he actually played the clip of Dawkins and that he's enjoying himself here. But let's see what he's got.
Because he's made a few assertions, hasn't he? And this is typical of Richard Dawkins, to make assertions and not back them with evidence. He mentioned the Quran, he mentioned the Sunnah, he mentioned...
Hijab, would you like us to go through your sources and show you exactly what he's talking about? Isn't that funny, though? He's in this short little interview, this short little clip, and, well, I don't like the impact it has. But you haven't given all your sources for things.
Where is your evidence?
Where's your proof? And they never have this requirement for themselves. Keep in mind, guys, this is the same guy who can't even read, who can't even understand the title of a source that he cites to defend something, when he gave his famous 100-to-1 ratio on Piers Morgan. If you're new here, Hijab claimed in his discussion with Rabbi Shmuley on Piers Morgan that Israel has a 100-to-1 civilian to combatant casualty rate. In other words, they're killing 100 times as many civilians as they are combatants. He gave the source. What happened? People looked up the source afterward, but he got away with it. He got away with it during the discussion. We looked it up afterwards, and it was just referring to commanders. It was saying that they've only killed a certain number of Hamas commanders. They weren't talking about combatants in general. And when you actually do the math appropriately and not just lie about it like Hijab, Israel is being extremely careful. They are being extremely careful. And so it's just amazing. He didn't bring the source. Well, I mean, as far as if Richard Dawkins were to imitate Mohammed Hijab, he could just completely make things up. He could just make things up and that have zero connection to anything else. You know what's amazing? You know what's absolutely amazing? If Richard Dawkins were to do that, just make up something and say, "Oh yes, that's in volume 4 of Sahih al-Bukhari," and it's not there, and he made it up. Every last Dawah guy would say, "You see, this destroys this man's credibility. We can never trust this guy again." And it's all they do. It's all they do. They make stuff up. They say it's in a source. It's not there in the source. It's a lie. They just make it up. hypocrisy at the core of this religion. Another reason we got a problem with your views, Hijab.
I will make the video. I will make a video showing absolute proof that Mohammed Hijab is a liar.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one.
I'll show.
Hadith. However, he didn't actually provide any evidence of what he is saying. Now, we all know Islam has a diametrically opposed, in many ways, view on, say, homosexuality or the morality thereof, than, let's say, liberal societies and so on. That's something which is taken for granted. We all know that. We also know that there is some level of, if you like, a managerial hierarchy in the family setting and otherwise between men and women in Islam.
Managerial? Your wives are a tilth. Plow them however you want. That goes a bit beyond that. Well, it's just like managing a field. You plow it however you want. It's your field. Do what you want. Guys, the historical background of Surah 2, verse 223, your wives are your tilth. Plow them how you want, was that women in Medina were refusing to have sex with their husbands in certain positions. And one woman just told her husband, stay away from me if you want me doing that. And then it gets brought to Muhammad. The Muslim woman, Muslim man, Muslim wife, Muslim husband. Wife refuses to do what her husband wants in a certain sexual position. And Allah's response is, what are you talking about? She's your tilth. Plow her how you want.
You can do whatever you want to her.
It's just a managerial.
When Mohammed Hijab says it's just a managerial, a difference, what he actually means is that men are totally in charge of women, and the women must obey the men. And the men can even go and, without consulting the woman at all, go and marry more wives, or just go and have secret second wives, and so on. And the woman has no say in this and doesn't even have to know about
just
it.
managerial.
So
that's what we do. Listen, when I have my wife, and then one of the Dawah guys says, oh, but I have a 5-year-old daughter. She's ripe. She's ripe for you. And I know that my wife might be offended because she's culturally Christian.
And I don't want to deal with her.
I just keep it secret. Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, he kind of downplays where the actual disagreements lie.
Severely downplays it.
Here's Mumu Joe. Technically, every Muslim that lives in a Western country lives as cultural Christianity. All the Muslims living in Western countries live there by choice. Every freedom they have is thanks to Christianity. Yeah. Seriously, does Hijab want to live in Afghanistan? No. Does Ali Dawah? No. Do they want to live in any country that would actually enforce Sharia? They can say it. They can say, oh, we look forward to it when we're going to get you, Apostate Prophet. Yeah, and we're proud of that. We'll be eating popcorn. They like to talk like that. But guess what? There are countries where you could go live like that. And they do not want to live there. They understand. It's very similar in that they want a society that has only the features that they like. So there are clearly features of Sharia that they like critics would be silenced by public executions. Ex-Muslims would be silenced by public executions. They like those features, but they don't like all these other things. And they don't know how to get just the things they like. Just like Dawkins can't get a society where it just has the things he likes and doesn't has the things that he doesn't like. But they're all the same. And so they all choose to just live in, Christian country and hope it leads to something where it's just what they want. And it's not going to, because
it's going to happen soon.
Yeah. It will. Yeah. Except one variable, scientist had equation balanced. I don't know what this was in reference to. Except one variable, scientist and equation balanced.
It's probably in reference to nothing at all. That's what
right.
often happens here. I do.
Muslims ignore the fact that by 2050, Christianity will still be the largest religion and will eventually reach nearly 3 billion. Christianity is leaving the West and moving to Asia, Africa, and South America. That is true. And as it's shrinking in the West, it's booming in other places in the world. So it'll be interesting to see how things work out. It's going to be funny when it gets to a situation where Dawkins and all these other guys have to move to South America or Africa and so on to get their Christian nation that they want and not be completely dominated by Islam.
Oh, it's not true. You will see by the year 5000, Islam will be dominant.
Powerful. First super chat ever. I enjoy y'all too. Yes, we do
Welcome.
good stuff.
Welcome.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Well,
Some
thank
people choose Jewish states. Shalom.
you. Alhamdulillah.
I said that to AP multiple times when we were in Israel. It's like, this would be a cool place to live.
Yeah.
The old city of Jerusalem would be a super cool place to live, even Muslim majority. Super cool place.
I know. I thought about it later on, and I thought, I'm not really sure about that.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
probably good to visit.
No, you'd have to. Yeah, we'd have to. People would eventually recognize us and stuff and find out where we're at. So it wouldn't last. But I mean, I don't know. I thought it would be, and it wouldn't be a place where I want like all my kids. If it was just me by myself or something like that, I would love living in that area and just being it. That's where you wake up and.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, here you go, AP. Tucker exposed Jews killing Palestinian Christians. Tucker did it. You heard it.
It's not happening. It's not happening. No,
true?
it's not happening. I'm just sick of talking about it every single time and refuting these idiotic attempts. And this is the problem with people like Tucker Carlson. On the one hand, you just want to let it go and say, the guy is a complete scumbag at this point, grifter at this point. But on the other hand, the guy is having an impact, and people like this are taking Tucker Carlson actually seriously at this point as a credible authority, as a credible source of information. And that's the problem. And he is not a credible source of information. Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson have joined this a very similar strain of just I don't know what it is, grifters. Maybe they're being paid by certain forces to push an anti-West or anti-America narrative. However, Tucker Carlson here, in this case, for example, in order to supposedly show how Israel treats Christians, he went to a
pretty radical guy, right? A guy who thinks that Israel should not exist. A guy who thought the Palestinians were super based for the October 7th massacre.
He went to the one radical anti-Israeli and anti-Semitic pastor in Bethlehem, in the Palestinian territory, instead of talking to actual to well-known Christians represented everywhere throughout Israel, and then he presented this whole idea of Israel is oppressing and killing Christians. Bethlehem has been, you can read on it. Christianity has been in decline in Bethlehem under Muslim rule. When Jews were in charge for a brief time, it was actually going up. When Muslims took over again, when the Palestinian Authority took charge, it started going down again, and it is disappearing. It was at some point 80% of the population. Now it's 20% of the population. In Israel, Christians are extremely happy. 84% say they are satisfied with life, and so on. Christianity is growing. It's the only country in the Middle East where Christianity is doing well, and so on. Don't trust people like Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, and think, if you actually wanted to do something serious and be accurate, and you weren't just trying to blast Israel, what would you do? You'd go interview multiple people, get a number of different views. And you can include the critical critical commentary and so on, but you also include the people who say, "What are you talking about, man? It's awesome here, and I would much rather live here than like in Saudi Arabia or Pakistan or something like that." But you don't. You zero in on the one guy who's going to give the most radically anti-Israel viewpoint, and then go with that. Okay, you could do that. I don't trust you when you do that. And so, thank you for giving us the opportunity to blast away at Tucker there, Marquis Dena.
Yes.
Why do the Mohammedans prefer to live in Christian nations? Because Mohammedanism is the dominant religion of the third world nations. Mm-hmm. When do you decide to do...
By the way, very, very brief, that's a good point, by the way. Everyone in the region also prefers to live in Israel and under Israeli rule, rather than go away and have their own place or live on the other side of the fence. Not because Israel treats them so badly, but because Israel treats its own population very, very well, contrary to popular belief.
Yeah.
Which is why people like living there.
In other words, contrary to what Candace Owens thinks, the Muslims in the Muslim quarter of the old city of Jerusalem are free to leave if they want to. They don't want to.
Yeah.
They don't want to leave. The Christians there are free to leave. They don't want to leave. If Israel opened its borders to other people in the surrounding areas who would like to move in there, they'd be flooded. They'd be flooded because people would prefer living there. Same thing as the West. Isn't it amazing that, as far as like the hijab guys, the most evil places in the world are the West and Israel, and that's where they all want to live.
Maybe spend some time and try to make your own countries and your own societies better.
Yeah, just once. Make one really good place that people would want to live.
Yeah.
When do you decide to do Ali Dawah versus Mohammed Hijab? You know what that's about? What? Comparing them? I don't know. I don't know what that was about. 10 here. Ryan Gasling. Breaking. Iran sends 300 plus ballistic pigeons on Israel. Thank you for the book reference, D. Wood. I have been reading Tactics, and it is a great read. Yes, it is. I think I'll have Greg Kokel on here in the near future to go through his new book, Street Smarts, which is applying the tactics method to more specific issues. All right, back to hijab here.
But to go further than this and to say that Islam is hostile towards women, hostile towards gays, and then to compare it with Christianity, well, actually, the same kind of criticism from a liberal paradigm can be made about Christianity in its literal and orthodox formats. Both.
Oh, really? The same criticisms that we believe that most of the inhabitants of hell are women who are there for being ungrateful to their husbands, and that's why it's actually good to beat them into submission. We can plow them however we want. We don't have to care, and it doesn't matter if they refuse. We can just do whatever we want. These kinds of things. We believe the same thing, hijab? Seriously?
The only thing that you could say here, Mohammed Hijab, is that from this modern or liberal perspective, you could, relatively speaking, look at Christianity and say, Christianity is not ideal, by our standards. That's it. That doesn't say anything at all. That doesn't say anything at all. It doesn't in any way mean that Christianity is similar in terms of its treatment of women to Islam. It's not. And you know that as well. Don't be dishonest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Catholicism and Protestantism and Judaism, in fact, regarding the two very issues that he mentioned from a liberal and feministic paradigm. So one could say that on a liberal, atheist, secular analysis, for example, the verse in Timothy which talks about the man being the head of the household, or that man shall not lie with other man, and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Those are things that you'll find in the Bible. So to compare Islam...
Wow, man. Wow.
Yeah, this is dumb. So look at what he does. So Dawkins criticizes Islam's hostility towards women. And what's he thinking of? He's thinking of, things like wife beating and things like that, right? And then hijab pretends that Dawkins is just objecting to a man's sort of managerial role in the family and so on. That's what he's objecting to. But that would be true of other beliefs. So why aren't you attacking them? That's not the main thing he was complaining about, hijab. And that's what AP was saying. If that's your concern, yes, you can point out. If you're just thinking in terms of that, hey, this is not like my ideal. From a Western secular perspective, you can say, that's not what the way that Christian family is running it. That's not my ideal. That's not what Dawkins was concerned about. So he pretends that Dawkins is talking about one thing, and then says, but Christianity has the same thing. And you had Sodom and Gomorrah. That was like you had the whole town had become like an Islamic rape gang. That's what had happened, right? The entire town. It's not. Oh my goodness.
You know what he's actually doing there when he brings that as an example, Sodom and Gomorrah. He is just thinking about it from a totally Islamic perspective here, and just thinking of it as the story of the people of Lot and the people of Lut, the prophet Lut.
Not a prophet. He's not a prophet, ladies and gentlemen.
Because that's the perspective that you have in Islam. It's all just very, very simple. Oh, those people, what were they doing? Well, they were, men and men were making love to each other. Therefore, Allah destroyed them all. That's it. It's Muhammad Hijab should know that the narratives are not that simple in the Bible. However, he just treats it that way.
Yeah, and think about what he just did here, because rhetorically, it's a brilliant move. Dawkins didn't go into a lot of detail of what he's talking about. He just said, "Hey, I have a problem with the way Islam treats women." Hijab makes his response, which his followers are going to watch, but other people are going to watch as well. So there are people who don't know exactly what Dawkins was complaining about, who are then going to watch him, and he's just complaining about the man's managerial role in relationships, and so why would he have a problem with Islam above these other religions? If that's his complaint, that's not his complaint, but it's brilliant. Everything is deceptive with the Dawah guys. Everything involves deception. Always. Show me when it doesn't.
He even played the video where Richard Dawkins explicitly says, of course, Christianity also has its problems with, with women and their role in the church and the bishops and all that. So he himself brought it up. So if you want to talk about the whole managerial thing, Richard Dawkins is the one himself in the clip that you just played, pointing out that, of course, in Christianity there are minor issues. However, it's not the same. But of course, let's completely ignore that.
Mm-hmm. And so, guys, I don't know. When does Hijab respond to something and he's actually honest? What he's doing right now is called straw man. He's attacking a straw man. He's saying, this is my opponent's position. Now let me attack that. And it's not what his opponent was saying. Atheist guy said, "Let's do communism." 100 years later, 100 million killed. Arab guy said, said everyone do Islam. 1400 years later, 270 million killed. Do the math. I choose the lamb.
Alhamdulillah.
Theo says that's true. Forgot to pay my jizya. Mm-hmm.
Powerful words.
Do you ever think that if you were more Christian, you would less gay? Oh, AP. Do you ever think that if you were more Christian, you would be less gay?
I haven't thought about it so far. This is the first time that I am thinking about it, and no.
I got a request. The goat. Let's hear it scream. This one's for you, Jax. This is the Quran eating goat with real bits of Quran.
It was the perfect goat.
It was the perfect goat. Dawkins has blind faith in reason. Faith is faith. He just calls his God by a different name. His God is a lowercase g, the pagan idolater, a hater who actually thinks himself morally superior to his own creator, the unbelievable arrogance. We're going to see a little bit about that here in a little bit.
Let's see about that.
How about that?
And Christianity, and then to use those liberal talking points, as they are, liberal talking points with small l, against them, is actually a weak argument, to say the least. And Richard Dawkins is a coward because he has not been able to argue his position as a zoologist, because that's what he is. Why?
He hasn't been able to argue his position as a zoologist. He's a coward.
What?
To be fair, I will go ahead and grant Dawkins hasn't been the most courageous, because for years people wanted him to have just nice formal debates with William Lane Craig and certain other people, and he generally doesn't want to do it and he doesn't have to. You could acknowledge, hey, this guy would run circles around me in debate, and I'm not going to do it. But he would make excuses and so on. So you could say things like that. But Hijab, come on, everyone's been challenging Hijab, and he always comes up with excuses.
Yes.
He was just challenged to face multiple people, Jay Dyer and Sam Shimon. He made excuses for every last one of them. So what's he doing here? Probably running his mouth because he knows Richard Dawkins isn't gonna debate him, but just chest thumping to make it sound like he's the one who's ready here.
He even made excuses after agreeing to debate me. Imagine that. Even me.
And then once he backed down, then he showed up when you were on someone else's live stream. And then,
Yes.
ha! Got you.
Yes.
You weren't expecting me.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. And it's just the idea of him calling other people cowards. It's hilarious.
A zoologist talking about religion anyway. Why is he talking about
If you're a zoologist, you can't talk about religion. Everyone knows I'm the only one that's allowed to talk about religion.
theology? Why is he talking about philosophy? Why is he talking about all those things in the first place? But let's say he does want to engage in those discussions.
Mohammed
Instead of being...
Mohammed Hijab, your friend Ali Dawah is an Uber driver. Why does he talk about religion?
Yeah, and think about this. I mean, if you were to say, if you're going to talk about Richard Dawkins, so Dawkins says all kinds of things that I disagree with, that I think are bad arguments. I think he has some bad responses. He said things that are silly, like I think it was in the God Delusion, where he said, even scholars seriously doubt whether Jesus even existed, and the only guy he could point to, if you went to the references, the only person he links to is, the only reference he includes is G.A. Wells, who was a German, he was a professor of German language. So he couldn't find any actual historical Jesus scholars. So anyway, there are things like that. But I mean, if you were to compare Richard Dawkins talking about Christianity and Islam, Muslims are going to object to some of the things he says. Christians are going to find some of his arguments and so on weak. Compared to someone like Ali Dawah, this guy's compared to Ali Dawah, Richard Dawkins is like the greatest scholar of religions who's ever walked the planet.
I'm serious, by the way. I'm not joking. Some people think it's a joke. I'm not joking. Ali Dawah is actually an Uber driver. He didn't finish school, and he went into just doing, becoming an Uber driver,
Yep.
which I'm not judging, but I'm saying
there's no problem. There's no problem with that. It's a good way. It's good.
Yeah.
Good easy way to make money. Especially like guys can have like a job over here, and then they could do that over on their side.
Of course, it's a comfortable thing to do.
Yeah,
but
the point is,
don't be a hypocrite.
Yeah, that's the point. It's the hypocrisy. Hey, you, Oxford professor who's been interacting on these issues of religion longer than Ali Dawah has been alive, you can't talk about this stuff because it's outside of your field. Okay, hijab, then you should be objecting to Ali Dawah opening his mouth on any of this stuff. Because he never has any clue what he's talking about. And he's definitely, he doesn't have any sort of background in any of this stuff. But why? Because guys, this happens over and over again, right? The goal in Islam is always to control what other people say. That's the goal. In Muslim countries, you could do this either through the law or just through mobs and so on. In the West, you have to do it by other means. And it's always something like this. Like, you can't talk outside your field. We can all day long, every day. Yeah. We can make stuff up. We can completely lie. It's all fine. But you keep your mouth shut because you're not a scholar of religions.
How dare you talk about something?
Pathetic. This is pathetic. These are the heroes of Dawah.
Brave and gallant and having the intellectual courage of standing forth in front of someone who could oppose his views and challenge them. He just makes a few sneaky remarks on the radio. Well, as I say...
because he's being asked.
Yeah, a few sneaky remarks. He's asked. These are the same thing. Oh, Laura Loomer, she's trying to make these sneaky attacks. She was asked. She was asked her view. She said it. You guys flip out because you're in panic mode. You're desperate to control what people are saying right now. This is what you're doing. You're whining about everything.
Are we crying about the fact that you are mentally impaired and you are making comments about everything that is out there when you are asked? No.
Happens when you die, because that moment is coming soon. We could all die soon. I could die, you could die, but you're more likely to die much quicker than I because of your age. And so you should be thinking about really what's going to happen after your death. But one thing I will say is this.
Think about this. Richard Dawkins, you're a zoologist. You should not be talking about religion. You should just be thinking about dying.
No. Even better. You are a zoologist. You should not be talking about religion. you should be thinking about religion because you are going to die soon.
That's what he just said.
What?
You should be focusing on religion and what's going to happen after you die. You know, it would have been funny if he actually said what he, like, just thoroughly said what he meant right there. It's like, do you want virgins? Do you want lots of virgins? We got them for you. 72 of them. How's that come at your fancy there? Huh? 72 virgins. You could be banging for all eternity, or you'll be in hell. Take your pick, Richard Dawkins.
Nothing that Mohammed Hijab just said makes any sense. It's ridiculous.
Nothing does. Nothing. And I'm going to keep saying this over and over and over. It's the fans. You fans of Mohammed Hijab, you've made him like this. You've made zero accountability for any of your dawah guys. They can lie all they want. They can make things up all they want. They can commit every logical fallacy known to man all they want. And all you will do is praise them. And that wires them to just keep doing what they're doing. And the result is going to be more people leaving Islam and Islam collapsing because people are catching on to this. Other people are watching going, what? Are you serious? How's this a response to anything?
In one of your books, The Blind Watchmaker, Richard, you mentioned that there is no such thing as morality. There is no such thing as good or evil. There is
no.
Oh my God. I'm pretty sure that's not what he said.
No, I mean,
pretty sure that's not the point.
It is. You can go in a valid direction here because when Dawkins talks about it's not really the place for it, but he talks about, the universe has the properties where at bottom there's no purpose or design or anything else and so on. And there's no good, bad at the bottom of anything and so on. And so you could say, well, what basis do you have? So this would just be a moral argument. Hey, what basis do you have for making these kinds of claims about the way a society should be? Are you just saying, hey, these are the kinds of things I prefer or something like that? Or are you saying something deeper? Why don't you clarify that? Great. None of that really has anything to do with what Richard Dawkins was saying. He's saying, I have a problem with the way things are going in society. And all he was really saying, I don't like it. I don't like this. I prefer living in a country. Things are going in a way I don't like. That's it. And then,
plus, Mohammed Hijab is once again not understanding, the moral perspectives that he claims to be such a great expert on. Although people have already tried to tell him and tried to educate him. I am pretty sure, and I will go back and actually look it up later. Pretty sure what Richard Dawkins is actually talking about there is that there is no inherent good or evil, no inherent moral values based upon which you can make these judgments. However, that does not mean that Richard Dawkins is arguing that therefore there can be no moral values at all attributed to anything. So there is a distinguishment. There is a distinction here between inherent moral values and non-inherent moral values. Go ahead.
None of that. He doesn't have to defend like objective morality or objective right and wrong. He doesn't have to defend any of that. All he was saying was, I prefer living in a certain kind of country that is being radically changed by these guys, and I don't like it. That's it. That's the extent of what he's saying. I don't like this. Oh yeah, there are certain things I don't like about Christianity.
How dare you not like it?
There's way worse things I don't like about Islam. So this is disturbing. These are disturbing changes. Well, why? What about what you said over here? And keep in mind, I mean, I'm on Hijab's side in thinking that this is actually an important argument, and it's it affects the status of moral obligations, like what those actually are. It's just not relevant for what Richard Dawkins is saying right there. So I don't know.
This is funny. It's funny. I just searched for the word evil in his book, and it's not even mentioned once. He probably defines it, uses it in a different way, but.
No, I think that was from something earlier, like the selfish gene or something like that. It's the famous quote. There is no.
Yeah, but so he actually used the wrong citation here, I guess.
So really and truly, if you read The God Delusion, which is your seminal work, which is interesting because why is a zoologist writing a
That's not his seminal work. His seminal works were in biology, and.
Yeah,
the reason he got into some even philosophers, even atheist philosophers criticize the God delusion for having stupid, sloppy arguments in it. But that's the point. That's not his field. If you wanted to talk about his seminal works, those would be things like the selfish gene and so on.
Work on issues nothing to do with zoology or science. And when you spoke to Dennis Noble, who is seen as one of the esteemed biologists in the United Kingdom, in fact, in the world, and he rubbished your ideas and criticized you and put you in your spot and humiliated you intellectually. And he, in fact, is the one who invented this label science journalist vis-a-vis you and your efforts.
By the way, think about how stupid this is, because it just boggles my mind, like what the fans of the Dawah clowns think are good responses nowadays. Guys, you do not have to have expertise in any field to say, I do not like what Islam does to cultures. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like the impact it has on societies. I don't want that having an impact on my daughter. I mean, just imagine like one of the girls who were victims of grooming gangs saying, "I really don't like the way that Islam causes you to treat women and girls." And Hijab, what degree do you have in religious studies to be making these kinds of claims? Well, it might be because you guys started gang raping me and so on, so I don't like that. Shut up! You don't know what you're talking about. If you don't have a degree, you can't talk about these things. It's insane and idiotic. Any person can say, I don't like what this does to society.
And what is your moral foundation upon which you judge that you don't like it?
Move it. What a dope, man. This is it, guys. This is Dawah. Dawah is deception. It's all deception and deflection and straw manning.
I gave this example in my video that I made about him, which he said he watched, which is The End of Mohammed Hijab. And I explained it to him as well, which is that whenever he goes on these rants of, how can you even judge whether something is good or bad? How dare you? What is even the foundation? It's like if you break into my house, right? If you break into my house while my family is there, and I then catch you, I hear you, and I have my gun with me, I will shoot you. You can then stand there and be like, hold on, don't shoot. What is the foundation for your moral judgment based upon? No, I'm not listening. I'm going to shoot you. That's it. Don't waste time with these idiotic remarks.
No, this dude. Every single thing is just an attempt at deceiving viewers from understanding the actual points being made. Pretty pathetic. Super chat there. How is it golden shower if there's blood in my bee? It's from Slippery Zabiba. You guys make a difference. Thank you. That's our tagline. David Wood and AP making a difference. It's what we do. Yeah. D Wood, check your email. A dubstep remix of Hijab has been sent to you.
Wow.
Let's check that out. Although I have to say, some people send emails to other places and think it's mine, and I don't get them, and they think that I've gotten them. Mr. Jib Jab, having a narcissistic or borderline personality makes so much sense. P.S. I'll send some more super chats if we call him Jib Jab from now on. I don't know. Mojab's pretty cool. But Jib Jab's kind of cool too. Jib Jab.
I came up with Mojab, so I like Mojab.
Mohammed Jib Jab. The Red Cow. How dare AP ignore me or unleash my wrath worse than those drones did to Bibi? Boy, your sand will never be the same again. Allahu Akbar. Yeah, that sand actually got messed up, man.
Yeah, I still feel bad for this sand.
Iran was wrecking that sand.
Yeah.
And the lizards. Good, serious point here. You don't know what you got till it's gone. That is true. You have things. You have a bunch of things, and you're taught to complain about other things. And all the things you have, you think those are normal until they're gone. And then you realize, love you guys.
And
you're
then
hilarious.
I realized that what I had was much better than what is coming.
Love you guys. You're hilarious. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. We love you too.
Yes, that is correct.
You really couldn't withstand that kind of criticism. But if you read your book, The God Delusion, most of it is actually attacks are based on morality. But if you do not believe in an objective morality and that everything is pitless indifference, so whether one is hostile to gays, one is hostile to women, one is hostile to men or children or animals or anyone else, that is, according to you, pitless indifference. It doesn't matter if they are, hostile or not hostile, peaceful or hostile.
Mohammed Hijab. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying. This is so weird. Guys, I mean, I believe the moral argument is a very, very important point. And when people are deciding what our moral obligations are on a personal level and as far as society and so on, I think it's very important to have discussions about what's called meta-ethics. These are like the foundations of ethics. Very, very, very important point. When someone's just saying, hey, I like societies like this rather than like that, and
where's your proof?
And then you instantly go, nope, you can't say that. You can't say, I can't what? I can't say what I prefer. I can't say what I
where's
like.
Your proof? Where's your proof why what you don't like is worse than what you do like?
Gosh. Dawah is deception, ladies and gentlemen.
Doesn't matter. Finally, I will say this. The entitlement in your speech is quite clear.
The entitlement?
For you to speak in this...
The entitlement?
The irony, man. The irony.
The most entitled guys in the world, Dawah guys, the most entitled people in the world. We get to control the rest of the world just because we mindlessly follow the ramblings of an illiterate 7th century Arabian caravan robber. Therefore, we get to tell all of you what you are and are not allowed to do forever. But we got a problem with your entitlement. But think about from his perspective, Dawkins isn't allowed to. He's not entitled to say anything, and so the fact that he thinks he can even comment when someone asks him a question is too much for Hijab.
Your entitlement, your audacity to think that you can offend me. How dare you?
And just think of the United Kingdom as kind of like your garden or your backyard.
It's
I wouldn't want to see this there, and I wouldn't see that there. It shows you that you don't actually have respect for the democratic process.
Mohammed Hijab, the UK is his backyard, and it is indeed his backyard, yes, and he does indeed have respect for these very values, which he is aware will be stripped away by people like you if he simply stands there or sits there and does nothing. Yes, he is the one who actually has respect. You are the one who doesn't have any respect for it.
Look what he just did there, right? So, hey, you don't like the way Great Britain is changing and becoming more hostile towards women and girls and so on because of what politicians are bringing in. And so you're objecting to that. But that just shows you have a problem with the democratic process. Because, do you have any idea how insane this is? So following his reasoning, anyone who lives anywhere and has a country that they really, 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 really like, and you say, hey, we're going to bring in. So suppose you live in a country and it has 5 million people. It has 5 million people. And it's like the most wonderful, amazing, peaceful place on earth. And you say, okay, we got 5 million people, but you know what? There's 10 million people in Afghanistan who need to get out of there. So we're going to take in those 10 million people. And you say, well, that's really, really going to mess things up for the rest of us because now they're just going to impose Sharia and so on. Hijab would say, what, you got a problem bringing in 10 million people so that you're completely outnumbered and then society's completely changed to Sharia compliant hellhole? See, you got a problem with the democratic process. This guy's nuts, man. He's nuts. No, he's not nuts. It's his religion.
It's just the dishonesty there at play. That's he
Guys,
has to say these.
Did y'all get that? If you have a problem with Islam and the grooming gangs and any of this stuff, you got a problem with the democratic process.
How dare you have a problem?
Shame on you for being anti-democracy. These guys are nuts, man. All right.
He kept asking you, what if, Britain became a Muslim majority country, so on and so forth. I mean, if you cared about the principles of democracy and so on and so forth, then you would actually answer in a way which would be commensurate with that.
And by the way, think about how idiotic this is.
This is the dumbest thing I've heard. And go ahead.
I think about what he just said. He said, "Hey, what if Great Britain became a Muslim majority country? You shouldn't have any problem with that if you really believe in democracy." That's not what democracy means, Hijab. It doesn't mean like, well, just imagine it became a Nazi majority country. Then you'd be fine with Nazi. No, that's not what. Oh boy. Believing in democracy does not mean you're cool with any group taking over and forming a majority.
Yes.
And in fact, the founding fathers were worried about that in the U.S. That's why they had this entire system of checks and balances and a constitution and all that. They're worried about what they called the tyranny of the majority, just getting a majority population that can then wreak havoc on the minorities. They were very worried about that. It's like every idea that he brings up, his stupid, insane, idiotic fans are so dumb. They think, oh, that's what people's view is. Wait, that's not what anyone's view is. Straw man. What is he attack here? Every single step of the way. Straw man, straw man, straw man, straw man, straw man. He's attacking things that are not actually his opponent's positions.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay.
If you actually value democracy, if you actually value the democratic values and democratic process, what you would want to not lose it, you would want to protect it, you would like to protect it, and you would want to oppose any kind of force, any kind of ideology, any kind of movement that threatens to permanently remove the democratic process, that permanently, threatens to permanently get rid of the democracy that you like so much. Which is why anyone who loves democracy should be opposed to fascist regimes, should be opposed to Islamic regimes and Islamic sentiments that are threatening to take over and change the system, and so on. It's quite simple, and I'm pretty sure that Mohammed Hijab actually understands this. He's not stupid. He actually understands this. He just doesn't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah, he knows his followers, and his followers are morons, and he can say whatever he wants to them. Yeah. So guys, democracy is not a goal in itself. It's not an end in itself. You don't just say, hey, you know what? I just like democracy wherever it leads. If you had a majority population that is completely evil, then democracy would not be good in that situation. The general idea is democratic nations do better at preserving people's rights and so on because the population has the ability to make decisions. And therefore, it's not just one person in a castle deciding what gets imposed on everyone else. The people get to make decisions and so on. If the people are going to make really bad decisions, then the results of a democracy would be bad. And as AP's pointing out, if you're talking about Islam taking over, then that's the destruction of your democracy. That's the destruction of it. And what would happen? These guys would impose Islamic law, and then people like Richard Dawkins are going to be killed. So
but I didn't want to be killed.
It's the same situation. It's the same situation with UAP, in that these are matters of life and death. These guys, Hijab, Ali Dawah, they would have if they were in charge, they would have Dawkins executed for criticizing Islam. They would have they would have me executed for criticizing Islam. They would have you executed for criticizing Islam and for leaving Islam. And yet we're not even allowed to say we don't want that. We don't want to die. We don't want your majority, if you get it, to take charge, because then you're going to kill us, and we prefer not to die. What? Your degrees in zoology? How dare you talk on this? How dare you say you don't want to die?
What do you mean you don't want to be killed? How dare you? What is your moral foundation?
Prove scientifically that you don't want to die.
Where's your empirical evidence that dying is bad?
Prove it. You're a zoologist. Don't you know that things die?
Well, if that's the will of the majority, if this and that, which shows you that you cannot avoid the in-group, out-group tribal dynamics. In your last days on this planet, probably,
no one's ever had a problem with, we do not want to be controlled by that group. No one, not one person has ever had a problem with that, Mohammed Hijab. That is no one's argument. No one is saying, hey, anyone who says they don't want to be completely dominated by some other horrible thing that's going to get them killed, that's in-group, out-group. Well,
or weeks, if you're lucky, months.
Did you hear what he said? He's talking about him dying again.
In your last days on this planet, probably, or weeks, if you're lucky, months, maybe. In those
He's acting like he's about to die like any day now.
last moments of your withering life, you've decided to attach yourself culturally with a religion that you've spent a long time trying to oppose, which is Christianity, which shows a lot about.
I'm sorry, but Mohammed Hijab himself, I don't know if I should be saying this, is probably, according to himself, according to certain people, also near the end of his life. So I don't know, maybe he's worried about it too. Why is he attacking an old man here, saying, "Oh, you're at the end of your life. You should be thinking about that"? I don't know. I want to have some respect for his privacy here, but obviously he doesn't care about other people's dignity and all that, and he just wants to attack an old man and say, "Oh, you're gonna die soon. You're gonna die soon.
Oh, you see.
You're gonna die soon." Yeah, according to Mohammed Hijab himself, Mohammed Hijab is probably going to die soon as well. I have so been reliably informed by himself, just so you know.
Finally, I will say the debate offer has always been put on the table to you, Richard. We've always said if you really want to speak about it,
You know what have we been saying?
Why do you want to debate if he's going to die?
His job is looking for people who don't deal a lot with Islam, and therefore he can say whatever he wants. That's his new target audience. I mean, that's his new target. He's not going to debate any actual apologists anymore, or any serious critics of Islam who can. Yeah, he's pulling a Zakir Naik.
Islam, the Muslim community is willing to have that conversation. And before you die, maybe you'd want to summon the testicular fortitude, although maybe that has withered as well, to do so. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Isn't this crazy? This guy's the biggest coward on the planet.
Look at this.
This guy's the biggest coward on the planet, and he's going after a guy who's like 1,000 years old, and talking about him dying and saying, "Yeah, let's debate. Why don't you have the testicular fortitude to face me?"
And then he's actually talking about his testicles and how they might have become,
It's like he couldn't make it. He couldn't make it to the end of the video without talking about Richard Dawkins' testicles. He couldn't do it. I knew it. I knew it beforehand. I knew at some point in here. Some point in there, he's going to talk about Richard Dawkins' testicles. He can't get away from it.
He has to talk about Richard Dawkins' testicles. Otherwise, he cannot get through it. He cannot finish the video. That's it. He tried to resist. He tried to stop himself. There was probably somebody there in the room with him saying, "Okay, focus. Don't do it."
Hey,
he had to
remember the grapes.
He has to talk about Richard Dawkins' testicles. That is his big concern here. Richard Dawkins' testicles.
Had to be said. Are you aware of Bart Ehrman's upcoming discussions with Javad Hashmi on historical problems with the Bible and Quran and about religious violence? I have to say,
of course I'm aware.
If it were anyone else in the world besides Javad Hashmi, the guy's just a terrible, terrible human being. But he comes in his discussion with Richard Dawkins. I guarantee he will come across as nice and scholarly. That guy's he has the mentality and the exact same mentality and personality as like the worst of the Dawah guys. So think about the worst characteristics of the Dawah guys. Javad Hashmi acts and thinks exactly the same. He's just got more scholarly credentials to back them up, and so he can dupe people into thinking, "Oh, look how scholarly I am." Blah 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 blah. But yeah. Not interesting.
Bart Ehrman's campaign got in touch with me to work together on something, and I was like, yeah, definitely, yes, exciting, good stuff. And then they mentioned to me
same thing,
what it is.
Yeah, they contacted
Javad Hashmi, and I said, I don't know if I want to participate.
Yeah, they contacted me as well because they like to get the guys, the people they're having the discussions with on people's platforms to promote. So they wanted us to do that. And I was like, oh, cool. Bart Ehrman having a discussion with a Muslim. That'll be cool. And then Javad Hashmi. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, I seriously, I'd be more interested in seeing him talk to Ali Dawah or Mohammed Hijab or something like that.
I would promote it.
Slippery Zabiba again. Guys, have you seen Frank at Nigerian Perspective on YouTube? He is a Christian and has been going hard against Islam. Would love to see you three talk. Not familiar with him.
Nope. Never
Nigerian Perspective. I think I may have heard of Nigerian Perspective. I don't know about Frank. Orthodoxy is the only valid form of Christianity. Everything else is just a bad copy. Catholics caused the split and Protestants results of hundreds of sects. Doesn't hurt that Orthodoxy is aesthetic as... What? Tarun says, Dave and Vids, looks like Tate does not make much sense. Subtle and polite. Dave and Lives, Andrew Tate is a complete idiot. Blunt and just speaks. Wait, David and Vids. Looks like Tate does not make much sense. Subtle and polite. David and Lives. Andrew Tate is a complete idiot. Blunt and just speaks. Yeah. Different audience.
Yeah, that's true. It's based.
Nabil did a good video exposing Zakir Naik's mistakes. AP might do one on Mohammed Hijab. That was that approach in that one video where Nabil goes through 25 mistakes of Zakir Naik in under 5 minutes and just blasts them. That is good. That would be a good approach for some Mohammed Hijab or Ali Dawah stuff. Just something being called 25 mistakes in under 5 minutes or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're dropping hints to you, AP. You should make a video like that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Come on, just get Hananya, Naftali, and Sham Sharma.
Mm-hmm.
Markian, 100% agree on Tucker. He also spreads lies about Ukraine and pretends like he's the truth superhero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and all I could think is, with Candace and Tucker going down the road on some of these things, like defending Andrew Tate and so on. And yeah, I think you can get some loyal fan bases by doing some of the things they're doing. But, long term, it's like me. I didn't really have anything. I didn't have a thing against them in the past. Even if I disagreed with something they said and I thought, oh, that was stupid. I didn't have any particularly negative view of anything. And they both said lots of important stuff along the way. So had no problem with them. And then all of a sudden, oh, we're defending Tate. Oh, now we have to blast Jews. Oh, now we have to do that. And it's like, oh gosh, I don't trust you guys anymore. Were you always like this? Were you always like this and you were just tricking people? Daniel Haqiqatjou. Daniel Haqiqatjou prefers paying taxes to the U.S. government than fighting the U.S. in a Muslim country. Yep. It wouldn't go well for him. He'd be a pretty easy target. Hijab would be a pretty easy target if they were ever actually fighting.
Alhamdulillah.
Daniel doesn't seem like he'd be very fast rolling across the battlefield.
Hey, did you know that Mohammed Hijab has a brain tumor?
Does he?
Apparently, he never told anybody, but he told me in the past. I don't know, but I talked to him in the past per private messages. That was about.
Then why are you sharing that?
I just checked. It was like 3 years ago. He said, "Don't tell anybody, but I have a brain tumor," and
I don't trust anything that guy says.
I'm just trying to live the best of my life and go to heaven, go to Jannah, and all that. That's why I'm doing all of this. That's what he said to me. And to be honest, for the longest time, I thought, you know what, I'm going to be an honorable guy and indeed never tell anybody. But here I am.
And here you are, completely dishonorable.
Publicly saying it, foremost because I never really believed that it's true. I don't know why in the world he would tell me this secret and not the public. Why would he do that? That's dumb. Also because he has been lying about very, very, very important things and thereby causing harm to people on such a level that is much greater than these interpersonal interactions and relationships. I mean, he has been lying about the 100-to-1 ratio and thereby attacking Israel and encouraging genocide against Jews and all that. So I don't care. I don't care about his promises and the honor part and all that. So he actually did tell me that he has a brain tumor. About,
that wouldn't surprise me. I just wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, and here's the thing. It was probably not true. He was probably lying, but I'm not entirely sure why. But I'm just saying there's something wrong with this guy.
Yeah.
He actually did say that to me.
Yeah.
He did say that to me, and he said he's just trying to do his best to go to Jannah and all that, to go to heaven. But it seems like that was just a lie. But why would somebody do something like that?
Oh, there could be all kinds of reasons for that. But yeah, it could be something, a situation where, hey, I'm going to tell him this, and then he'll expose me for it. And then I'll say, you see, I made that up in private just to see if I could trust him. And you see, we can't trust him. And it'll be the situation of the biggest liar on the planet trying to call you untrustworthy for sharing his secret.
I have indeed betrayed Mohammed Hijab right now because I really don't care, because what he does to people out there is really messed up. So if you want to spread it here, I'm saying it right here once again. According to Mohammed Hijab himself, the public doesn't know this. According to Mohammed Hijab himself, he has a brain tumor. This is what he told me in 2021. Indeed, I asked him recently again about it, and he said that it's still there. So, make it public.
Yeah, I would say something like that. He's trying to see if you share it so he can call you untrustworthy, or it could be him looking for a way out for all his ridiculous tweets over the years, because he likes to make excuses like, "Oh, I was on drugs for that one. Yeah. That's why I said that," and so on. If he wants to at some point explain all his atrocious behavior, if he needs a way out, say, "Oh, I wasn't responsible. Oh, yeah, I had a brain tumor. Fortunately, it got removed, and I'm good now. And that's why I'm gonna, have a different approach now."
Yeah. In fact, I want to ask him to actually send us to give us evidence for his brain tumor, to give medical records or something. Where's your proof?
Your streams always bring a tear to my leather strap. That's cool.
Beautiful.
Recent scientific findings have found that the first place Aisha wanted Muhammad to take her was recess. Alhamdulillah. Where should I take you, Aisha? Recess. I prefer women. So do we. Oh, I said prefer Christian nations. Seaside life. Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for it. Yeah, that's Paul in Ephesians.
What is your proof?
Kate says, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is another excellent anime. It is based around a Gnostic worldview, though. Yeah, I think my wife and one of my sons watched Full Metal Alchemist because I've heard them mention it.
I watched it too.
Alex O'Connor just posted a video about William Lane Craig defending wiping out the Canaanites. Wasn't that like 4,000 years ago? It would have been a long time ago.
I need to see what he published, but it's funny.
It's always something we could go through if we wanted to.
Yeah, definitely.
It's good you find wiping people out funny. It's always good.
It is hilarious.
Would you live in a country with Mike Winger? I mean, if it's a big country and he could be on the other end of it, yes.
Good response.
As long as his fans never, ever form a majority of anything.
Nice.
So few people actually read the various holy books to compare them. Why? You can actually check them out at the library. Even I did that. Edifying.
Beast defying.
We all know that Allah prays to the Prophet. Hijab is at it again. No, Allah prays for Muhammad, not to Muhammad. Get it right. Don't be falsely attributing stuff. Now we need a skit where you enter an Uber to go to McDonald's and Ali Dawah calls you a little weakling with Farfour's voice, and we're proud of that. He does sound exactly like Farfour. That is true.
He does. I'm pretty sure that he is actually the voice actor there.
Marilyn Murphy, 33, Mason, atheist. War is a hoax and is controlled demolition and strategic location. Do not false witness death. I am your second witness.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Christians are doing well in Israel. Be careful you don't believe the hype. Modern Israel isn't true Israel. The church is. Are you aware of this? Guys, when we talk about Christians in Israel, we're talking about there's a nation, there's a place, and there are Christians who live there. We know. We've talked to them and met some of them.
Yes.
So, and then when you talk about polls, like AP was talking about polls, it's okay. There's a survey of Christians asking if they like living in that nation. That's what we're talking about.
Israel is not real.
Apostate Mommy says, hi guys, jizya paid, true, false, smoking Quran page cause us high on hikmah. Yes, that's true.
That's true.
Adam and Islam versus Nephilim, thoughts? Oh, Adam, yeah, because he's 90 feet tall, so he'd be a giant. Oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, so that would mean that, what, I guess Adam was it? No, because they're just shrinking. They're just shrinking in size over time.
Yeah. The idea that, according to the Hadith, is that that Adam was extremely tall, and humans were generally like that, but over time humans shrunk, which is really dumb.
Yeah, from 90 feet. And it's interesting because that's one of the few passages that mention man being created in the image of God, and in context, it sounds like it's talking about his height and shape.
Allah was huge.
Yeah, Allah's 90 feet tall. Changed my mind.
And now think about his testicles.
Oh my goodness! This is why we're so base. Our God has the hugest testicles. Way bigger than Richard Dawkins. Just one of Allah's testicles would be bigger than Richard Dawkins' entire body.
The Richard Dawkins' career.
Is it verified that Hijab went to Oxford? Comparing his vocabulary with Douglas Murray's, Hijab sounds as daft as a brush and looks like what? Yeah, he did like a master's. People have pointed this out, like the master's program in like whatever religious studies that he went into is actually pretty easy. They have, I think, over a 50% acceptance rate and so on compared to just trying to get into Oxford University and so on. So
I think they had like a 60-something% acceptance rate. Yeah.
Up here we have from the Marquee again, coming from someone who lives in America, challenging Israel like Tucker has is not a very smart grift. It's a great way to lose cash and employment. He does his own show. Who's the employee?
What fantasy world are you living in?
The real grift is taking IPAC's cash and warmongering. No, if you are not working for the mainstream media anymore and you decide to go out on your own, it is good for you to gather up large followings that are obsessed over some issue. So you want to interview Tate and be as nice to him as possible to get him on your side. You want to slam Israel because there are people, matter of fact, didn't he get a ton of funding from some guy who's like from Pakistan or something?
Yes.
His new media venture?
A major company that is, I think, from he has a Qatari and something background. He is a guy who funds certain news sources and think tanks and all that. But yeah, Tucker Carlson has some major funding now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and appeals mostly to the part of the population that doesn't like Israel and that doesn't like Jews and is still conservative.
But I'm from America, so I say it will just get you in trouble. Stupid.
Plus, there's just circular reasoning. Like you're saying, oh, Jews are bad, Israel is bad. What Tucker Carlson is saying is what Tucker Carlson is not a reliable person. But well, why would he then say it, considering that Jews are evil and Jews are bad, and he's risking his career by offending the powerful evil Jews? Like, please, man.
Yeah, but thanks for the super chat there, Sport. Kamalian says, why hasn't anybody come up with homo? Yeah, not spelled like that. Yeah, you could say Momo the homo when he's talking about, his relationship with Dihya and that guy kissing him all over his side and then walking around covered in semen and so on.
Beautiful.
If Islam is the perfect, why he cries like a baby every time someone say the word Islam? His argument is a pile of your mama jokes level. Yeah. It is interesting. Like, we're so strong and we're so based and we're so courageous, and you cry like babies anytime someone says one word about anything in your religion. Why?
Imagine the thing, man. The guy, all the guy is saying is, I do not like Islamic culture, and I really appreciate Christian culture, and I am a little bit worried about the future, considering that Islam is more problematic. And it's like, oh, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Let me talk about your shriveling testicles. Man, have some respect.
Why/how are his pants not on fire? Good question. I don't have a problem with the democratic process. I have a problem with population displacement.
I don't have a problem with population displacement. I have a problem with the democratic process.
Let's go ahead and, as far as, here's what's interesting. Dawkins, he says, I prefer, if I had to choose between a Christian country and a Muslim country, I'd pick a Christian country every time. Very simple. Hijab flips out of it. How dare you? Your background is in zoology. You can't talk about these things. When hijab is exactly the same. It's exactly the same thing. Same exact thing. Hijab wants to live in a country that has been massively influenced by Christianity. So does Ali Dawah.
That is, by the way, officially a Christian country.
So does Daniel Haqiqatjou. So do all these guys. Until they start moving to Afghanistan, I don't believe anything they say. But why did countries with a Christian background turn out way cooler? Let's go ahead and watch a little bit of Inspiring Philosophy's new video. We won't watch it all because you can check that out on his channel. There's a link in the description box. But he just focuses a bit on how missionaries encourage literacy. So there are all kinds of directions you can go in as far as inventing orphanages and inventing hospitals and changing laws about infanticide and so on, and lots of different directions you go. He focuses on the literary aspect here. And so let's check out a little of this to give people an idea of how things end up better than they do in Islamic societies.
The common belief today is that Christianity has been a hindrance to progress and prevents us from becoming a more educated and enlightened society. This is how Christians are often portrayed in the media and films, but how much truth is there in this? In reality, very little. The reason the world is more educated, healthy, and prosperous has a lot to do with Christianity, and specifically Christian missionaries, who have been crucial for building a better world. Christianity, through missions and charity work, has made the world a much better place, and scientific research can verify this.
This video is Islamophobic.
What's up with his little intro there? It's like,
it's beautiful.
It's powerful. He's based, Inspiring Philosophy, how Christianity changed the world.
Based philosophy.
Over a century ago, Max Weber came up with the idea of the Protestant work ethic. This is basically the idea that Protestantism encouraged discipline, diligence, and frugality, which led to more economic progress and therefore more prosperity. This was allegedly the reason Protestant regions of Europe became more prosperous and quickly outperformed their Catholic, Orthodox, and Islamic neighbors. Although one can argue Christianity does encourage virtues like discipline and diligence.
It's funny. He's talking about, I've heard that before. In discussions about why certain things took off in a certain way in Europe, but it's called the Protestant work ethic. See, it's in the Bible. So this applies to all Christians. Protestants some of the early Protestants put more emphasis on it, on like Bible passages about whatever you're doing, do it as if you're doing it for the Lord. So even if I'm working for this guy at the factory, I'm supposed to work as if I'm working for God. And they viewed work as like a good thing. It has a good impact on you. And you could compare that to other worldviews where work is something bad. It's something necessary, but it's bad. It's bad. It's bad that you have to do this instead of just enjoying yourself all the time. Whereas some of the early Protestants put a big emphasis on it in terms of this actually being good for you, and you should work as if you're working for the Lord. But when you have an idea like that actually takes root in a population, you get a bunch of really, really hard workers, and they can a bunch of human beings who really want to work and think it's good can do a lot in the world. I mean, just imagine you had like a McDonald's down the street and all your workers believe that, hey, we're going to work as if we're working for God. It would probably be the best McDonald's on the planet. But let's just say things are changing. There's not much of that Protestant work ethic anymore. And we'll see how that goes for society. Now we're going to have an atheist work ethic, which is sit around doing nothing, just being miserable all day. Oh, it's all pointless.
More recent research has challenged the idea that prosperity in Protestant nations specifically came from the concept of the Protestant work ethic, and instead came from Martin Luther's demand that all Christians must read the Bible. When Luther began the Reformation, one of his concerns was the surprising lack of literacy among Christians. Most Christians did not even know what was in the Bible. Luther explicitly favored universal schools for boys and girls, so people could be literate and read God's word for themselves. Above all, the foremost and most general subject of study, both in the higher and the lower schools, should be the Holy Scriptures, and for the young boys the Gospel. And would to God that every town had a girls' school also, in which the girls were taught the Gospel for an hour each day. Combining this new Protestant motive with the recent invention of the printing press, literacy throughout Protestant Europe skyrocketed. But this had an unintended effect. While the Ottoman Empire was banning the use of the printing press, higher literacy rates in Europe led...
You see that, Jeb? While the Ottoman Empire was banning the use of the printing press.
It's true, though. It's true.
Yeah,
It's like,
let me go back a little. Yeah, guys,
so
the
like,
point here...
of the devil.
Yeah. So the idea here, guys, is this is another thing, and this doesn't tell you that this is that Christianity is true or anything. It's just here. This is what, practically speaking, these are some of the consequences of certain ideas. And I've seen the presentations on how different Christian missionaries and so on have impacted the world, and some characteristics were improved more by Catholics. On the literacy issue, this is more associated with Protestants, because Protestants were more focused on people being able to read for themselves. You don't have to, you're not, you are kind of your own check on what people are saying to you. You don't want to just trust the church. You want to be able to read these things for themselves. So they thought like the best solution is for everyone to be able to read, and then everyone can look up things on their own and know on their own.
Combining this new Protestant motive with the recent invention of the printing press, literacy throughout Protestant Europe skyrocketed. But this had an unintended effect. While the Ottoman Empire was banning the use of the printing press, higher literacy rates in Europe led to more economic development, productivity, and prosperity. Luther's reforms increased literacy across Protestant regions, which stemmed from his desire for all to read the Bible. To quote from the study, "The increased education of Protestants was purely religiously motivated in its instrumental function for the dissemination of the gospel." Thus, Rupp states quite clearly that Luther's prime concern in this area was the creation of elementary schools for the people as a means of providing all Christians with access to the Word of God, as contained in the Bible.
In your face. Where were the
See, this
atheists?
is all just, it's because the Protestants were unruly and not obedient enough. Didn't listen to the authorities. See,
Mm-hmm.
this is why we are in trouble nowadays.
They
But
spread
people
literacy.
act smart.
They spread literacy. Shame on them.
Had they just been obedient.
Why is this a question for you? It says, "Hey AP, is critical text or Textus Receptus better?" Do you know what that was about?
No.
That's talking about the manuscripts. So you have kind of different theories, and so the critical text is you apply the methods of textual criticism to Bible manuscripts, and you come up with what you would regard as the most reliable text based on applying the principles of textual criticism to existing manuscripts and so on. You come up with what's best. And then the Textus Receptus is, if I recall, it's been a while since I started, it's like Da Vinci Code times when I was studying this stuff. But I think the Textus Receptus is the idea that God has always preserved an accurate version, and that's the Textus Receptus, and that's what was used for, I think, the King James Bible. I think that's about right. You also have the majority text view. But it's funny that they're asking you.
Yes, I will do my research on this, and I will get back to you with a very scholarly answer.
I would have to say, since the Textus,
in about 1 minute.
I think since the Textus Receptus view is that God was preserving the correct Greek manuscript, that would kind of be off limits to AP.
Yeah.
Since he's a donkey-brained atheist, and therefore he would probably go with the critical text.
Well, it's funny because this question comes from the red cow, so it's
the red cow.
I would say my answer to the question would be yes.
There you go. You got it there. If hijab gets power, our last day is going to come sooner than later. Oh yeah, he's talking about people dying and stuff.
Yeah.
And yes, Richard Dawkins. Let's just say if me and my pal Ali Dawah get our caliphate, then you'll be lasting not even days.
You don't have to be worried about death because you will die immediately.
Hijab speaks volumes about current Oxford entrance. Yes, definitely.
Most
Here at
definitely.
Just leave this one without comment. There's a response to Mohammed Hijab talking about testicular fortitude, and there's an Islamic site called Code Hub that can help him with it.
It is the perfect site.
Thanks for your work, guys. Dr. David Wood, PhD, is always knowledgeable and insightful, and also AP is a great comedian.
Nice.
Is Dawkins okay with Hagia Sophia, a well-preserved, beautiful church, but used as a must? That would be an interesting question, because it's just weird when he's thinking, it's like there has to be more than just liking cathedrals and hymns, because suppose Muslims are going to take over and they're going to keep the cathedrals, they're just going to be mosques now. Would you still be fine? And what if they let you in, Dawkins, so you can still go check out the lovely architecture? Would you be fine with it then? We know you'll have a problem with some of the ideas, but is it just the buildings and some songs? I don't know.
Yeah. Richard Dawkins needs to see some Muslim cultures, Muslim countries more closely to change his perception on them and see that they're just as beautiful and peaceful as Christian cultures. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Dawkins doesn't sell lube, so aim for his low-hanging. What's wrong with people, man?
Hey, you could, instead of donkey brain, you could say Dawkins brain.
Yeah, Dawkins brain. Hey, what if I start calling him Donkey Brain Dawkins? Donkey Brain Dawkins over here. I'm going to do that. I got to start doing that. Donkey Brain Dawkins.
Don't do that. Don't do it. He's at the end of his life. He has a little to live.
That's true. That's true. Have you guys considered challenging Muslims to take everything Muhammad said about the Jews, change the word to black, and post it on their social media? Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work if you say Jew. Cow is greater than goat.
That's a very interesting challenge.
Everything Muhammad said about Jews, change the word to black and post it on their social media.
Whoa, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Why is it that most Muslims are so blind? That's the most Islamophobic comment of the day.
Ask a zoologist. How would I know?
Yes, how would you know? Only zoologists can say these things. You two do really good work opening my leather straps. I wish Allah gives you 72 whores. Hories. You're supposed to say hories. Brain tumor is pity play, victim, sociopathic / narcissistic move. Testicular fortitude while Mojab runs from debates. Yes, he does. His fans do not care. I don't see anyone risking their life to get to a Muslim country. That's true. I wonder why. Muslims choose a Christian country because it's a better life. Oh, yeah. And speaking of why things are better, keep in mind, you do not have to believe that these things are, you don't have to believe that, like Richard Dawkins, he doesn't believe that things turned out better in Christian countries because because Christianity is true. Just, well, things worked out that way.
To be fair, I know of several people who risk their lives to get to a Muslim country, and that is people who are trying to escape Saudi Arabia and get into Turkey to then go to Europe from there. So
yeah, and then to move on to Europe. That's funny. All right, back to inspiring philosophy so we can be a little inspired.
We conclude that all our qualitative results are robust to controlling for a variety of geographical influences. Economic outcomes and literacy are both significantly higher in Protestant countries, but Protestantism had no significant association with economic outcomes beyond the one due to literacy.
Interesting. So they spread literacy, and literacy was connected to things, but there wasn't a connection beyond that.
What is also interesting is the study authors found that when Catholic regions adopted this urgency to increase literacy, the same positive results in economic success were found. Robert Woodbury notes when Protestants began to utilize the printing press to spread literacy to teach their Christian message, it forced Catholics to retaliate by also printing more educational material.
Nice! You catch that?
Mm-hmm.
So the Protestants had a bigger emphasis, because they're objecting to lots of things. And so in order to show people that they got things right, they make sure that people can read so that people can read the Bible and read their literature and so on. But then Catholics have to respond. You can't have these guys who are spreading all the books because we need to respond to their criticisms and so on. So they had to do the same thing. Interesting.
Yeah.
Combat arguments from Protestants. In order to win more converts, Protestants and Catholics began to educate more and more people, which had the unintended effect of raising literacy rates in Christian regions, which led to more prosperity and growth. This educational growth was not limited to Europe. Convicted by the command of Jesus to make disciples of all nations, both Protestant and Catholic Christians sent missionaries out to Africa, the Americas, Australia, and Asia. One study looked at the effects of missionary activity in India. It found the exposure to Protestant missions during the colonial period translates into higher literacy rates today. Historians highlight the important role of Protestant missionaries in promoting literacy among traditionally disadvantaged groups in India, women in low castes. Consistently, I find that women in low caste members living in Protestant districts display significantly higher literacy rates relative to the same social groups living in non-Protestant areas.
That's interesting. He connected that to, and I don't know if the sources he's citing do this, but he's connecting this to, which is interesting, the Great Commission. So Jesus commands his disciples to go and make disciples of all nations. So you're supposed to make disciples. I mean, part of being a disciple is you're supposed to study. And so they're making disciples of all nations, and they thought it was an important part of discipleship. It's something that will help their discipleship if the people can read. And that way they can read about Jesus and they can study the Gospels, and this will be part of their discipleship. So, I don't know.
That is good.
Interesting stuff. Very based, very based. Christianity is very based.
At the turn of the 19th century, nearly 70% of primary and secondary schools in the provinces of Agra and Oud were missionary run. The study suggests Protestant
70% of schools, primary and secondary, run by missionaries.
missionaries changed cultural norms to favor the needs for boys and girls to be educated. Female education was also boosted in regions where Protestantism had more influence, and this transformed into positive results that are still seen today. On average, regions that had a Protestant mission are associated with a 2.5% increase in the total population literacy rate. Protestants also detested the caste system of India and believed it was a Christian's responsibility to undermine it. So Protestants used education as a weapon against the caste system.
You see, Christianity is intolerant.
It's violent. They're using weapons. Using weapons to oppose the caste system.
Education in particular is used as an invaluable weapon in the fight against castes. There is the belief that Christian schools cannot recognize or tolerate caste observance within their walls. The Protestant
caste
stance is that
alone.
education must be accessible to all. Some have attempted to argue this is only correlative. Higher literacy rates and better education could actually have come from influence from Western civilization and not directly from missionary work. But another study looked at this and found that Christian missionary activity is consistently associated with better female education outcomes, as measured by differences in education between men and women in the colonial period. It also continues to affect post-colonial variation in female education.
What? Dad at the Haqiqatjou will watch this and say, look at that. Here you can see that Protestantism, that Christianity is inevitably responsible for the rise of OnlyFans. This is why, because of Protestantism, because of Christianity, women started becoming educated, and now they create all OnlyFans profiles, and soon every woman will be an online prostitute because of Christianity. This is what happens. That's
Didn't he
why
say
we-
something like that? Like women going to college leads directly to OnlyFans or something? He said something
He
like
did.
that, right? Yeah.
He did.
You gotta love the Dawah guys, man. They're awesome. We'll watch a little more of this, and then gonna go to we'll take some more super chats, and then we will. I have an interesting parable of Jesus, ladies and gentlemen, a parable of Jesus that I think will make sense of what's going on with Richard Dawkins.
Are you
These
trying
effects-
to say that some parables of Jesus are not interesting?
I mean, for this discussion, very
Wow.
interesting parable.
I'm incredibly disappointed.
But I'm the only one who knows how to interpret parables, as you'll see.
Oh,
When we include the usual controls of direct British rule, modernization, European settlement, education expenditures, and post-colonial democracy, as well as those specifically employed in studies of India, such as Islam, caste and tribal status, and land tenure.
So this was a response to what if it's not the actual missionaries? What if it's just like Western civilization impacting the world and so on? And saying, no, they found it specifically with the biggest impact with the missionaries.
Interestingly, we also find that direct British rule is not consistently associated with better female education outcomes. Furthermore, it has had a deleterious effect on gender equality and post-colonial education at some levels of schooling. In other words, European colonialism and Western influence was not found to be positively associated with better education. The effects are directly tied to missionary activity.
Guys, this is actually, I mean, this is really important stuff, because we always hear this. We're like, but look at, look at the impact that various missionaries and so on had in the world. And no, that was because of the Enlightenment and because, Europeans spread things through colonial. IP's pointing out there have been studies on this, on the impact. And no, it wasn't colonialism and spreading this. It was missionaries starting schools. That's what did it.
And not mere European influence. The study found that Christian missionary activity is consistently associated with better female education outcomes in both the colonial and post-colonial periods. Despite facing native resistance, missionaries worked tirelessly to educate girls alongside boys. By 1931, Christians in India surpassed Sikh, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, and tribal communities in overall literacy.
31.
Muslims had on average 15 per 1,000 literate girls. Hindus had 21 per 1,000. Christians dwarfed these numbers by having 203 per 1,000 literate girls.
Wow.
You know what the problem with this is?
What?
That there are a lot of people nowadays on the internet who will who will hear this and precisely because of this say, "Oh, so Christianity is the problem."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Daniel Haqiqatjou would look at that and say, "You see, this is the problem. This is destroying the world. Women
Yes.
learning to read."
Yeah, women shouldn't be reading. They shouldn't even learn to read.
So, guys, this is post-colonial India, and Muslims had an average 15. So you're talking 1.5% of Muslim girls could read, 2.1% of Hindu girls could read, and a little over 20% of Christian girls could read. Interesting stuff. All right, guys. So yeah, he has a longer video. We've gone through about 8 minutes of it. It's I think 26 minutes or something like that. But there's a link in the description box if you want to check that out. If you want to finish watching that video, good stuff from Inspiring Philosophy. I'd like to see him do a series on it because there's a lot more interesting stuff. We're going to take a couple super chats. We're going to look at a little parable of Jesus that will make sense of Richard Dawkins, and you'll wonder why he doesn't get it when it's so easy. Even a donkey-brained Dawkins should be able to get it.
Makes sense.
What's irritating is that Mojab is trying to dawah in Norway. I heard Norway is doing pretty good, and now he and his gang are trying to ruin Norway.
No way.
Yeah, you've seen them trying to getting their dawah center up and running, which is I find that fascinating as well because they have abandoned all their main arguments for Islam, and now it's this. Oh, we're gonna show the world how intolerant we are. That's why they's gonna convert. It's like, how well is that going to work in Norway? Like, what are you going to? You have to come up with some new shtick, right? You have to come up with some new trick because your old ones have been exposed. If I had to guess, I would think that they're going to use the same old stuff in Norway. They're just going to look for an audience that doesn't know the responses to this stuff. Like they're desperately looking for every last person in the world who has not been exposed to the refutations of their dawah points.
Norway is among the happiest countries in the world with
Not for long.
With one of the highest life satisfactions.
Not for long.
Plus, people are not really leaning towards such ridiculous ideas of we need to be more intolerant. So I really don't know what they're going to do there, but have to think about that.
Muslim countries have never been economically successful. No work ethic, needs 5 breaks a day, have always relied on conquest, jizya, handouts, and oil.
This is so Islamophobic.
It's pretty terrible. This is it's a bit racist there, Brent. A bit racist. We all know that everyone wants to live in a Muslim country because they make such great countries.
Yes.
First time catching you both live. Keep up the great work. Ooh, special comment from Aisha's goat. This is why Protestants have to teach Muslims what's written in the Quran. That is true. I can bring up Quran verses, and I have to tell Christians who are doing outreach to Muslims, when you bring up these verses of the Quran to them, this is going to be the first time they've ever heard them. They have not heard these from their leaders. They have not heard them from their imams or their sheikhs. They haven't heard this from any of them. And that's partly because they're not reading it for themselves. Arab region has the world's lowest adult literacy rates and highest incest rate. Come on, there's no incest in Muslim countries.
Yeah, never.
The Earth is millions of years old. PMW. What's PMW? I don't know. Love you, David, but get a haircut, you hippie. Hippies don't get their haircuts. We like long hair. How dare missionaries teach people to read the Bible? They should teach them to read the God Delusion and the Communist Manifesto instead. Yeah, that's
Alhamdulillah.
This message from
Beautifully
Antifa.
put.
What do you think about this quote? Islamophobia, a word created by fascists and used by cowards to manipulate morons. Christopher Hitchens. Well, my criticism is that it's not from Christopher Hitchens.
Precisely what I was going to say.
So we're going to say, I forget the guy's name. I brought it up before with the accurate quote. I forget what his name is.
It's a misattribution. It's not. It sounds like something Christopher Hitchens could have
Sounds
said.
exactly like something he said.
He could have. He would have probably said it in a better way, but it's not him. Yeah.
And I don't know. Maybe he did quote the guy at some point and use it, but it sounds like something that was a good quote, and people realized it would circulate faster if they said Christopher Hitchens said it.
Yeah.
Let me see. Fascist and used by cowards. Just want to see what the guy's actual name is so we can give proper credit to him.
Android, something with an A. I don't know. I think. What was that?
Where is that? Oh, here it's attributed to Bill Maher. Guys, get your people right. What is that guy's name, man? Who said it?
Andrew Tate.
Okay, here's Douglas Murray quoting it. Yeah, he says it's erroneously attributed to Christopher Hitchens. Tell us who said it.
Andrew Cummins.
Yeah, there you go. That is correct.
You see?
Yep, now I remember. Now I recall. AP is correct, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, share that quote because it's an awesome quote, but attribute it properly.
Yes.
All right, now for a quick parable, ladies and gentlemen. Richard Dawkins, Mohammed Hijab, all these guys wanting to live in Christian nations. What are you grinning at, AP?
Because I said Andrew Tate earlier, and now people are saying Andrew Tate. Yep.
Let's go ahead and check this out real quick.
Check this out.
Cash me outside. All right, ladies and gentlemen, parable of the mustard seed. I'm going to tell you guys how to. What do you like?
Hey, isn't this Nader Ahmed's favorite?
Oh yeah. Nadir's another perfect example of this, guys. I'm thinking I'm probably going to make a separate little video on this because I think it's an interesting point. This parable in particular. So let's go ahead and read the parable, and then we'll see how to interpret it because none of you guys know because you don't study parable interpretations. Parables of the mustard seed. So he told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. So kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed. Tiny, tiny, tiny little seed. Guy planted it in his field. Tiny, tiny, tiny little seed, and yet it becomes so big, it's a tree. It's actually not a tree, it's a bush, but he's pointing out it becomes big like a tree. So, and the birds come and perch in its branches. The birds come and perch in its branches. So, what's the point here? The takeaway of most people is, well, Jesus is speaking in the first half of the first century, and he's saying, hey, kingdom of heaven, it's this tiny little thing, but it's going to become really big. Pretty bold claim that this little weird offshoot of Judaism is going to become really, really big. So think, tiny mustard seed grows, becomes a tree, so it gets really, really big. But then at the end of the parable right there, you have this, the birds come and perch in its branches. What are the birds in this parable? Jesus doesn't tell you. There are certain parables that he interprets and he explains them. There are other parables that he doesn't explain. So those birds could represent nothing. They could just be part of the parable meant to show how big it becomes. It becomes like a tree, and even birds can come and live in this this giant mustard bush, right? So it could represent nothing. So the birds could symbolize nothing. It's just further indication that this is going to become really, really big. So that's one way of interpreting it. Or you could interpret those birds as something else, like it's going to become really big, tiny little mustard seed is going to become a tree, and those birds could represent something like, let's say, the Gentiles. Even the Gentiles are going to come, and they're going to perch. Point is, Jesus doesn't say what the birds are. Doesn't tell you. Everyone good so far? So if you guys have read this parable before, you may not have wondered what the birds are, but if you are wondering, you can make different arguments because Jesus doesn't explain what the birds are in this parable. However, he does explain the birds in a different parable. And this is where I said this is a theory. This is a theory of parable interpretation, that if you've got a parable where Jesus doesn't explain some symbol, according to a theory of interpreting parables, if you have something that Jesus doesn't explain in a parable, but he explained it in a different parable, you should try to carry the meaning over from elsewhere where Jesus did explain it. So the birds here does not explain what they are. There is another parable where he talked about the birds. And you're not looking for something exactly specific. It's more like, is it negative or positive? Are the birds negative or positive? So are the birds showing up and living in these branches of this mustard bush? Is that something negative or positive? Well, this parable does not tell you. It doesn't tell you if it's something good or bad or anything else. There's another parable, and it's in the exact same chapter. So a little before Jesus talks about these birds here, you have another parable. You have another parable that he actually explains. So again, guys, this is not, he doesn't say you have to interpret it this way. This is a theory of parable interpretation. So check out the beginning, same exact chapter. Matthew 13. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. And so this is the parable of the sower, and you have the different kinds of ground, the rocky places and so on. Then you have the places, the seed that's choked by weeds and so on. And then you have the ones that fall on good soil. But right there, farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering his seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. But this is a parable that Jesus actually explained. The birds came and ate it up. So he talks about why he explains things in parables and so on. And then verse 18, listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their hearts. This is the seed sown along the path. So the birds represent the forces of the evil one, who are snatching away the word before people understand it. This doesn't mean that's what birds represent later, but this is if you wanted to connect anything about the birds in the parable of the mustard seed to anything else, this is the only context. This is the only relevant context. Birds here are something that are in opposition to the gospel. They're the opponents of the gospel. They're snatching the gospel away before people understand it, right? So think about that. That's the context. That's the only thing in the context that is talking about the birds. The birds are what snatch the word away before people can understand it. So right after this, you have the parable of the weeds, and then you have the parable of the mustard seed, where he talks about the birds. Now read this in the context of that other parable and the birds there. He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed, which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. You don't need anything about birds in this parable. It works perfectly well just saying it's a tiny little seed and then it becomes a tree. Works perfectly well. What about the birds? The only thing in context about the birds are the birds. The birds are the forces of the evil one who snatch away the word of the gospel to keep people from understanding it, right? So on this interpretation, again, this is a theory of parable interpretation. If you go with this theory, you end up with something much deeper here. What would this be saying if this is talking about opponents of the gospel in the parable of the mustard seed? What would that mean? It would mean that Jesus, the first half of the first century, says, hey, this little weird offshoot of Judaism that we've got right here looks really, really tiny, like a tiny little seed. Guess what? It's going to become huge. It's going to be like a tree. And when it becomes a tree, even the opponents of the gospel, even the enemies, even the ones who try to destroy the gospel are going to end up living in it. They're all going to live in it. So on this interpretation, Richard Dawkins is one of the birds. Mohammed Hijab is one of the birds. They're all complaining about it. They're all snatching away the gospel, and yet they're living in the branches of the kingdom of heaven. Interesting stuff, I think. Especially when, well, God says to Abraham, hey, all nations of the world are going to be blessed through your offspring. Just random guy out in the middle of nowhere. Then it happens. Then Jesus, first century, hey guys, this is going to spread so it's going to be so big. It's going to have such a huge impact on the world that even the enemies are going to be living in it, even when they're complaining about it and still trying to attack it and destroy it. It seems like a perfect summary of what Richard Dawkins is experiencing right now. I'm attacking it, and yet I am still living in it, and I prefer living in this tree. I don't want to go to some other, I like this tree. Interesting stuff. In your face, AP.
I must say that was very impressive.
Yep, it was cool. I actually heard that the guy brought a book in. This was when I was at Stanton Correctional Center. So I was there for I think a little over 3 years of my prison sentence. I was in a couple different places, but I was in Stanton, and there was this guy. He was like in his mid 80s, but he was like an important Bible scholar earlier in his life. I don't even remember his name to look him up, but he'd written like tons of books and so on. He taught at seminaries all over. He taught around the world. And then he was just all super old. And all he would do is go just have Bible studies with inmates in prison. I thought, wow, that's cool. This is a cool guy. But he was the one breaking down these view of the parables. And he was connecting all of them. And he had a book, which is where he learned it. But he's drawing all of these connections between parables, and you could treat all of these parables as like standalone stories with their own meanings, and you always get something out of it. When he would say, but this symbol must mean this because of this over here, and connect it, all of a sudden it would become something else, and usually something more interesting, and would very frequently come across as like a prophecy. It would start sounding like a prophecy of things that were going to happen thousands of years in the future. Anyway, it was really interesting stuff. Thought it was fascinating.
That is very good stuff. The only thing that is on my mind at the moment is that I personally wouldn't think of myself as fitting into the bird description or bird category.
You are a bird.
So what am I?
You're a bird. You're bird living in there too, trying to destroy the gospel.
I'm not.
Isn't that interesting though? Like they're going to hate it, but they're still going to be living in it. I don't know. I think that's funny.
That is an interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I think guys. Anyway, if anyone liked that point, or anyone wants to look into that method of going through parables and stuff, I'll probably make a short video just on that, because I think it. I don't know. I think it's cool.
That is very nice. That is good.
All right, a couple more super chats, and then we'll be out, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think about? Oh wait, we already read that. Mr. K says, what are you laughing at?
Darren Pass said you're a turkey. So.
Yeah. He can't even get into the tree.
Okay.
I was walking through the Bronx one day, and it was like early November. I'm walking through the Bronx. I'm walking along the side of a park in the Bronx, and there's this turkey sitting there. I was like, what the heck are you doing in the middle of the Bronx, dumb turkey? I've always wondered to this day, like, did some turkey just end up there, or was someone about to, slaughter the turkey and they actually liked the fresh turkey and they brought it and he escaped or something like that? I don't know.
Maybe somebody just took that turkey as a pet and then decided, yeah, you know what, this is actually a very dumb idea.
Not a lot of pet turkeys in the. Oh yeah, that's true. They could just say, this was a dumb idea. Yeah. I made the mistake of watching some of the Young Burke's coverage of the Iranian missile attacks. At no point was there any blame put on Iran. I guess he means the Young Turks there? Yeah. What do you think? Would the Young Turks blame Iran?
I have very harsh words for the Young Turks. So
yeah. You love them, but you're one. They're one of them.
Yeah, totally.
Would love to see a friendly debate between you two on if there is a God or not. Love you guys both and keep exposing us. If we had a debate on whether there's a God, it would not be friendly.
Yeah.
It would be like mortal enemies to the death debate on existence of God.
Plus you would be crying afterwards, so I don't know.
Why can't we get along? Why can't we get along? Why do I trigger you so, David? Well, just someone who asks a question then starts talking about triggering me. That would probably be along the lines. You always misread my chats. PMW. Oh, prove me wrong. Okay. I don't know what things mean. I don't know what all the abbreviations mean. So you could have just said, prove me wrong. That's a good little idea. If you can see that I don't know what all the abbreviations use, then just say, prove me wrong. And then you don't have to complain. Oh, you didn't know what prove me wrong means. Shame on you. You're triggering you. Earth millions of years old.
PMW could be pony something. I don't know. My initial thoughts were that it's about menstruation. I don't know. Nobody knows. Explain it.
Yeah. Earth millions of years old. Bible says 6K and 7 Yom days. Your thoughts? Yeah, my thoughts are it's too big a topic to get into in the last remaining seconds of a live stream. If you'd like us to have a live stream on this, totally happy. But it's a lot to go into, right? Because you have multiple views. You have theistic evolutionists, you have old Earth creation, you have young Earth creation, and so on. And there's a lot there. So it's not going to, if you ask something like that at the end of a live stream or something like that, I'm just going to give a quick response. And no, Bible doesn't say 6 and 6,000. Doesn't. You can calculate it by saying, okay, this guy was this old, and 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 so on. There are people who you can do that, and there are different interpretations of how that goes. So if you'd like us to do something on it, then what you do is request it. Hey, could you do something on this topic that you're clearly not discussing now? Could you do something like that? Yes. And I'd love to, again, it's just not the stuff I'm most interested in. I kind of deal with Islam and so on. If enough people were interested in that, that's great. Get a young Earth creationist on here, an old Earth creationist on here, theistic evolutionists, and they can present their views. Me, I don't have terribly strong views on some of this stuff.
You see, David is scared of the topic. You know why I was laughing earlier when you brought up that parable? I don't know.
Because you're sick? Because you're a bird?
Yeah. Yes. Because I'm not sure if you have seen it, but Nader Ahmed at some point picked up this whole thing that his whole point, whenever science and scripture comes up, he will go after the Bible and say the Bible has scientific mistakes because it talks about the mustard seed and it says it's the smallest seed, but it is not. Yeah. And this proves that the Bible is scientifically inaccurate while the Quran is scientifically miraculous.
And he could carry that on. He could carry that on because Jesus says that it becomes a tree. It becomes a tree. And he could, well, actually, it doesn't become a tree. It's still a bush, just a very, very large one, and not actually a tree. And it's like, wait, Jesus uses hyperbolic language left and right. It's a defining characteristic of his speech patterns is he is a chronic user of hyperbolic language. And so, following Nadir's method right there, if I were debating Nadir and he made that point, I would say, come on, Nadir, my goodness, look at here. We got the worst debater in the world. That would not mean That wouldn't mean that I actually believe that he is dead last. If you were to rank every debater in the world, he would be dead last. It's how we talk. The worst debater in the world. My goodness, Nadir, that's the dumbest thing anyone's ever said. It wouldn't mean that is actually the dumbest thing anyone has ever said. So if Jesus is the smallest of seeds, it becomes a tree. Doesn't mean he's actually saying it transforms into a tree, or that is the smallest seed in existence of anything.
It's funny because even atheists comment and say, please shut up about the mustard seed. Nadir, please stop. Somebody stop this guy.
Hey, we got Bella here says AP does not believe birds exist. Pow.
No.
That's what
Birds
atheism
don't exist, actually.
That's what atheism does to people.
Birds are actually a conspiracy. They were created in a lab to fool people into thinking that there are these small animals flying around and, doing a bunch of weird things. They don't exist. Birds are not real.
He's got a point. He's convinced me. So the parable takeaway here is atheists are bird brains. I think you mean atheists are bird brains, yes. But no, also Dawa guys, they're all bird brains. I'm going to use that. I might use, so you're all bird brains, according to Jesus.
Everyone is bird brain.
Here's what I find ironic, right? You've got the Richard Dawkins crew, and it's, look at all these goat herders writing these things so many years ago. We're the smart ones. They were dumb. And it's like Jesus tells you exactly what's going to happen, and it makes sense, and you can understand, here's it is. And Richard Dawkins, I keep attacking the religion, and I don't know why it's not going the way I thought. So who's the real dope? Dawkins' brain.
You.
The turkey in the Bronx parable. Jizya for the coolest apologist in the universe. Oh, that would be me. God bless. AP is a legend too. That's true.
It's not true.
Jared Knupp here. And Massad's leather straps. Would Muhammad's 72 virgins experience look like heaven or a daycare? Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Well, they do have, according to the sources, they do have budding breasts. So they're right around the age of puberty. So,
you know what's funny? When you started reading that super chat,
mm-hmm.
I thought it's going to go into a different direction, and I thought, that's a very interesting question, which is if the virgins in heaven would have personal experiences, if they are going to be conscious beings like you and me, or not. And then what?
Then what?
Yeah.
Why can we get along? Oh, that's the other guy's channel. Look at Kent Hovind's Age of the Earth. Yeah, if you want the literalist interpretation, that would be it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. AP, I haven't mentioned this to you, but I'm actually live every weekday this week with someone.
Based.
So you have to decide which ones you want to be on, if you want to be in any of them.
I don't want to be in any of them.
Tomorrow, God Logic wanted to go through basically the same point I made in my recent video where I point out that Muhammad was a devout Bible-believing Trinitarian Christian whose teachings were later corrupted by the evil pagan Uthman, who tried to derail everything. And I point out that I can defend that using the exact same methods that Muslims use to argue that Jesus was a Muslim prophet whose teachings were corrupted by the Apostle Paul. I can use the exact same methods and make a much stronger case than you guys can. So in other words, I can defend Muhammad being a Trinitarian Christian better than you Muslims can defend Jesus being a Muslim. And all I will use are your methods, and I can make a better case. So anyway, God Logic wanted to actually do a live stream and challenge Muslims. We're going to challenge Muslims to show us that your prophet was a Muslim and not a devout Trinitarian Christian. So that's going to be tomorrow. D Wood and God Logic. AP, if you want to jump in, you're welcome to that. But God Logic, Tuesday, going live with Cameron Bertuzzi, who's bringing a physicist on, a physicist who's going to explain the fine-tuning argument. Here's what's interesting. I have no idea why Cameron said, hey, David, you should join us, because it's not like I can add anything to the question. That sounds
like the most exciting stream in the world.
Hey, you know what's crazy? I think the reason Cameron said, David, you should come on here is probably because, David, you don't know what you're talking about on this, and this guy's going to break it down for you, so you stop embarrassing
Ooh.
us and can actually say things correctly. Because we've talked
gonna
about the fine tuning
school you.
argument, and we're sitting there going, yeah, maybe Dawkins is right that if you adjusted this one, it would throw things off, but maybe you can adjust these other ones and stuff. And I think it's like, no, actually, Dawkins' response doesn't work, and so David, you actually need to pay attention. Anyway, AP, if you want to jump in that, I could see.
I can think of nothing more enjoyable than a live stream about the fine tuning argument. It sounds like the most exciting thing to do in the world.
So it's going to be a physicist breaking things down and telling me how I don't know what I'm talking about, and I should probably keep my mouth shut or let other
It's
people
like
do the talking.
if you want to hear what is the most exciting thing, objectively speaking, in the world that humans could enjoy, it would be a live stream about the fine tuning argument. Definitely.
Ryan Gasling says, "Happy birthday, Nabil." Ryan, the day after Nabil's birthday is not his birthday. The day
There's also
after.
the issue, like you asked if I want to be on one of those live streams, but then there is the thing. It is an interesting idea to consider, but do I really? If I have to choose between going on a Christian live show or watching a fish tank for 24 hours, I don't know. It's a difficult choice.
I would choose the fish tank. So there's that. I think Robert's finally back. He's been traveling a bunch. I think he's back this week. I think I saw him say that we'll be back this week for This Week in Jihad on Wednesday. Thursday, I'm with God Logic again, since someone finally got in a discussion with Ali Dawah. I haven't seen Ali Dawah in actually a serious discussion with someone who's critical of his position since that was years ago.
That was not a serious discussion.
And that was not serious at all. But he had, I think, like a 40 some minute discussion with God Logic. I haven't looked at it yet, but we're actually going to go through some of it and see how Ali Dawah is responding to various things. So that'll be on Thursday. AP, if you're interested in making fun of Ali Dawah, there's that. And then I think I'm on L's channel on Friday. That's L, ISO, Elohim. And I forget, it was something making fun of Muhammad. I forget what it was, like the semen stains or something like that. But we're going to go through some of that. Anyway, AP, if you want to jump into any of that stuff, let me know. And
Possibly.
other than that, ladies and gentlemen, should be back tomorrow night with God Logic to challenge all Muslims to prove us wrong when we say Muhammad was a devout Trinitarian Christian and a powerful preacher of the true gospel whose teachings were corrupted by a pagan named Uthman. Should be fun.
And on my part, at the exact same time, I will be going live as well on my channel, where I will be watching a fish tank.
That'd be funny. on Twitch. That'll be on Twitch.
Yes.
Oh, hang on. Before we cut out, there were a couple more super chats here. Last second. AP's theory on birds proves the Bible is corrupted. Aha. That's true.
Yes.
You're my first October 7th and main learning source about Islam. Ooh, that's someone who started with the October 7th. And main learning source about Islam. Much appreciated. Why they looked up Barak. Picture came up. Jibreel, Mo, and Barak. Trinity? No. Not quite. Love you, David and AP. Lord Jesus bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And guys, please check out Nigerian Perspective with J. Frank. With J. Frank? You mean with Frank? Let me just check out.
This?
No, that was a different one. Someone recommended, it might be the same account, recommending Nigerian Perspective. Just want to...
Keep reading the same super chat.
That's a different super chat. Mine are organized. Nigerian Perspective.
Find a different super chat. You
Frank.
keep reading the same thing over and over again.
A Nigerian Perspective with Frank Stephen. Oh, actually gets he gets a lot of views. 50,000 on Ramadan. Oh, 172,000. How Islam treats women? Yeah. Huh. Yeah, he's getting some serious views over there. Okay, yeah. Might be worth checking out, everyone. Nigerian Perspective with Frank Steven. Check that out.
Inshallah.
And let's see. AP, watch a live stream of Allah's finest creation. Fish.
Yes.
Hey, look, you need to check out Camel Urine Nasheed. What it's called.
What?
Camel Urine Nasheed. The best Nasheed. It was the perfect Nasheed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, we saw Dawkins, we saw our good friend Mohammed Hijab, we watched some of IP's video, and what we conclude is the same as always. We just can't follow Muhammad no matter what.
Ain't gonna follow no child molester, sex offender, private pretender. Ain't gonna follow no child molester.
Islam's not for me. Islam's not for me. Islam's not for me. Bring it home, goat.